All right. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It is currently 12:38 p.m. And of course, today is the 6th of May, 2025. How are you doing this beautiful afternoon? Lunchtime. Lunch time. Lunchtime. All right. With that being said, President Trump is meeting with the Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, and they've both expressed the, I'll say, not so much love between them, but Mark Carney is here to fight for Canada, of course, as he should. Donald Trump is here to fight for the American people, and the reason the American people voted for Trump to fight for them, to bring back a great economy, to bring back a great border, to end the wars, to renegotiate trade deals, is because they saw what he did in 2016. All right. During his first term, it is said that he's had one of the best economy, if not the best economy. So the American people were like, okay, if we've gone through what we went through for the past 4 years when Joe Biden was president, we might as well just vote in the OG. Okay. And that's what the American people did. They voted for Trump. And I voted for Trump as well. I ain't gonna cap. I voted for Trump and I don't regret my vote. Okay. I don't regret my vote. Do I 100% agree with everything he does? I don't agree with everything my mom does. So, of course, I can never agree with everything Trump does. So sometimes I don't even agree with everything I do. So, so it's like nobody's gonna be perfect. Nobody's gonna be 100% true. Okay. Sometimes we make mistakes. Sometimes we learn. Sometimes we don't learn, and we get to experience the consequences of not learning. However, so far so good. Trump has been doing what the American people voted him into the Oval Office for. Okay, the border is better. Russia and Ukraine, they are already talking about peace deals. Okay. The China US trade deal is coming up. Okay. Because now President Xi of China and his delegates, they're saying, you know what? We're ready to have a conversation with American. Okay. So, well, before we go deeper into what's going on around the world, China tariffs, border, foreign policy, and whatnot, we're going to talk about Mark Carney and Donald J. Trump, and let's see what they have to say. Let's hear what they have to say and see what happens because we saw what happened when Vladimir Zelensky was in the Oval Office. Hopefully, this doesn't end up like that, but let's see.
Thank you very much, everybody. It's a great honor to have Prime Minister Mark Carney with us. As you know, just a few days ago, he won a very big election in Canada. And I think I was probably the greatest thing that happened to him, but I can't take full credit. His party was losing by a lot, and he ended up winning. So I really want to congratulate him. It was probably one of the greatest comebacks in the history of politics, maybe even greater than mine. But I want to just congratulate you. That was a great election, actually. We were watching it with interest, and I think Canada chose a very talented person, a very good person. As we spoke before the election quite a few times. And it's an honor to have you at the White House and the Oval Office. And you see the new and improved Oval Office as it becomes more and more beautiful with love. We handle it with great love and 24 karat gold. That always helps too. Right? But it's been a lot of fun. We're going over some of the beautiful pictures that were stored in the vaults that were for many, many years, in some cases over 100 years. They were stored in vaults of the great presidents, or almost great presidents, all having a reason for being up, every one of them. So it's very interesting. But I just want to congratulate you, and ran a really great race. I watched the debate. I thought you were excellent, and I think we have a lot of things in common. We have some tough points to go over, and that'll be fine. We're going to also be discussing Ukraine, Russia, the war, because Mark wants it ended as quickly as I do. I think it has to end. We had some very good news last night. The Houthis have announced that they are not, or they've announced to us at least, that they don't want to fight anymore. They just don't want to fight, and we will honor that, and we will stop the bombings, and they have capitulated, but more importantly, we will take their word. They say they will not be blowing up ships anymore, and that's what the purpose of what we were doing. So that's just news. We just found out about that. So I think that's very, very positive. They were knocking out a lot of ships going, as you know, sailing beautifully down the various seas. It wasn't just the canal, it was a lot of other places. And I will accept their word, and we are going to stop the bombing of the Houthis, effective immediately. And Marco, you'll let everybody know that, okay? Do you have something to say about that, by the way? It's a pretty big announcement.
Yeah, this was always a freedom of navigation issue. Besides, these are a band of individuals with advanced weaponry that were threatening global shipping, and the job was to get that to stop. And if it's going to stop, then we can stop. And I think it's an important development.
And we'll have maybe before we're going to, as you know, the Middle East, Saudi Arabia. We're going to UAE and Qatar, and that'll be, I guess, Monday night. Some of you are coming with us. I think before then we're going to have a very, very big announcement to make, like as big as it gets, and I won't tell you on what, but it's going to, and it's very positive. I'd tell you if it was negative or positive. I can't keep that out. It is really, really positive. And that announcement will be made either Thursday or Friday or Monday before we leave. But it'll be one of the most important announcements that have been made in many years about a certain subject, very important subject. So you'll all be here. Mark, would you like to say a few words?
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I'm on the edge of my seat, actually. But thank you for your hospitality and above all for your leadership. You're a transformational president, focus on the economy with a relentless focus on the American worker, securing your borders, ending the scourge of fentanyl and other opioids, and securing the world. And I've been elected with my colleagues here, with the help of my colleagues here. I'm going to spread the credit to transform Canada. With a similar focus on the economy, securing our borders, again on fentanyl, much greater focus on defense and security, securing the Arctic and developing the Arctic. And the history of Canada and the U.S. is we're stronger when we work together, and there's many opportunities to work together. And I look forward to, addressing some of those issues that we have, but also finding those areas of mutual cooperation so we can go forward.
That's great. Very nice. Thank you very much. It's a very nice statement.
Mr. President,
Anybody?
Mr. President, is USMCA dead?
No, it was actually very effective, and it's still very effective, but people have to follow it. So, that's been a problem. People haven't followed it. But it was a transitional step a little bit, and as you know, it terminates fairly shortly. It gets renegotiated very shortly. But I thought it was a very positive step from NAFTA. NAFTA was the worst trade deal in the history of our country, probably in the history of the world. And this was a transitional deal, and we'll see what happens. We're going to be starting to possibly renegotiate that if it's even necessary. I don't know that it's necessary anymore, but it served a very good purpose. And the biggest purpose it served is we got rid of NAFTA. NAFTA was a very unfair deal for the United States. A very, very terrible deal. It should have never been made. It was made many years ago, but it should have never been made.
Canada and the United States. Would you like to see your first trade deal be with Canada, our neighbors in the world?
I would love that. Look, I have a lot of respect for this man, and I watched him come up in a sense through the ranks when he wasn't given much of a chance, and he ran a really great campaign. He did a really great debate. I think that debate was very helpful. I was going to raise my hand. You know, I don't know if that's good or bad. I shouldn't say that. That might hurt you. But no, he ran a really great election, I thought. And yeah, something could happen. Something could happen. Yeah, please.
What's the top concession you want out of Canada? The top concession you want out of Canada?
Concession?
Yes.
Friendship.
But that's not a concession.
No, we're going to be friends with Canada. Regardless of anything, we're going to be friends with Canada. Canada is a very special place to me. I know so many people that live in Canada. My parents had relatives that lived in Canada, my mother in particular. And I love Canada. I have a lot of respect for the Canadians. Wayne Gretzky, I mean, how good, the great one. You happen to have a very, very good hockey player right here on the Capitals, who I have a lot of. He is a big, tough cookie too. He just broke the record, and he's a great guy. And we had the team here, and I got to know a lot of the players. But Canada is a very special place. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, and Mr. Prime Minister, I'd like to get your response to this too. But Mr. President, you have said that Canada should become the 51st state.
Yeah. No. Well, I still believe that, but it takes two to tango, right? But no, I do. I mean, I believe it would be a massive tax cut for the Canadian citizens. You get free military, you get tremendous medical cares and other things. There would be a lot of advantages, but it would be a massive tax cut. And it's also a beautiful, as a real estate developer, I'm a real estate developer at heart. When you get rid of that artificially drawn line, somebody drew that line many years ago with like a ruler, just a straight line right across the top of the country. When you look at that beautiful formation when it's together, I'm a very artistic person, but when I looked at that beauty, I said, that's the way it was meant to be. But, I do feel it's much better for Canada. But we're not going to be discussing that unless somebody wants to discuss it. I think that there are tremendous benefits to the Canadian citizens, tremendously lower taxes, free military, which honestly we give you essentially anyway because we're protecting Canada if you ever had a problem. But I think it would really be a wonderful marriage because it's two places that get along very well. They like each other a lot.
Well, if I may, as you know from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale.
That's true.
We're sitting in one right now, Buckingham Palace that you visited as well.
That's true.
And having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign last several months, it's not for sale, won't be for sale ever. But the opportunity is in the partnership and what we can build together. And we have done that in the past. And part of that, as the President just said, is with respect to our own security. And my government is committed for a step change in our investment in Canadian security and our partnership. And I'll say this as well, that the President has revitalized international security, revitalized NATO, and us playing our full weight in NATO, and that will be part of it.
And they have, I must say, Canada is stepping up the military participation because Mark knew, they were low and now they're stepping it up, and that's a very important thing. But never say never. Never say never.
Mr. President, you're saying that what would it take to get the tariffs off of Canada?
Well, we'll be talking about different things. Like, we want to protect our automobile business, and so does Mark. But we want to make the automobiles, and we want to, we have a tremendous abundance of energy, more than any country. We have, just in Alaska alone, ANWR has been reopened now. ANWR is probably the largest find anywhere in the world. They say it's larger than Saudi Arabia. I don't know, but it's a lot. But we have tremendous amounts of energy. Other countries don't. We're both lucky in that way. They have energy, we have energy. We have more than we can ever use and more than we could ever sell, actually, and you have the same thing. So we're two countries that are very lucky. If you look at China, they don't have that. It's a big disadvantage. Other countries, most countries don't have, most countries don't have that. So Canada and us, we have a lot of advantages over other places.
When you consider what Mr. Carney just said, that Canada is not for sale, does this make the discussion a little more difficult to start on?
not at all. No, not at all. No, time will tell. It's only time.
Oh,
But I say never. I've had many things that were not doable, and they ended up being doable, and only doable in a very friendly way. But if it's to everybody's benefit, Canada loves us, and we love Canada. That's, I think, the number one thing that's important. But we'll see. I mean, over time, we'll see what happens.
Mr. President,
China.
I was hoping you can clarify something. Earlier this morning on Capitol Hill, Secretary Bessent said that there had been no negotiations yet with China. You have said something different.
They want to meet, and they're doing no business right now. And those ships are turning around in the Pacific Ocean. Big turn. Those are big ships. Those ships take about 10 miles to turn. And, we lost $1 trillion to China on trade because of an incompetent president that we had who preceded me, grossly incompetent. You're finding it out more and more now. And by not trading, we're losing nothing. So we're saving $1 trillion. It's a lot. But they want to negotiate, and they want to have a meeting, and we'll be meeting with them at the right time.
But you haven't met with them yet.
I have not met with them, of course. You would know if I met. I'd tell you. They want to meet, but, we are right now. Look, they're suffering greatly. Their economy is suffering greatly because they're not doing trade with the U.S. And they made most of their money off the U.S. Don't kid yourself. They don't make the money off other countries like this. And we had a trade imbalance. We had a deficit, or they had a surplus, another way of saying it, of more than $1 trillion. Think of it, more than $1 trillion. And because of 145%, that's the only reason, but because of they have now 145% tariff, there's no trading. You can't trade with 145%. We are, therefore, making, in a certain way, I guess, $1.1 trillion. In other words, we're not losing $1.1 trillion. Our deficit is much better. When I started, I say we were losing billions of dollars a day on trade. That's rapidly turning around. We looked at numbers this morning. So we were losing, the United States during Biden was losing more than, I won't even give you numbers because they're so embarrassing, but billions of dollars a day on trade. Those numbers are rapidly turning between the tariffs. Don't forget, we're now getting 25% on cars, 25% on aluminum, 25% on steel, and maybe more importantly, massive numbers of companies are moving into the United States. Honda, we have the car companies that are moving in at levels we've never seen before. The biggest investment ever made in the United States is being made right now. Trillions of dollars. I would say we could be at $9 trillion. You could go back to other presidents. They haven't had $1 trillion for their entire term. Look at Biden. He had bad numbers. People were leaving. They weren't coming in. They were leaving with Biden, and he didn't know the difference. The only thing he knew is people coming in. You know who they were? Illegal immigrants, okay, from prisons, from mental institutions, from all sorts of places that weren't good, from gangs, from Venezuela. They were coming in, and they were criminals and murderers. 11,888 people that murdered, and at least half of them murdered more than one person. This is what Biden led into our country. I'm bringing in big companies. We have Apple is investing $500 billion. We have Jensen, as you know, is going to be 500 biggest chip maker, or chip thinker, I call him. He's really a thinker more than a maker. But we also have the maker, Mr. Wei. I get to know them all in the last, it was a cram course, but they're all moving into America because of the tariffs. And I don't think people have appreciated it. Some people do. Some of the smart people do. So we have more money coming in. It's really an amazing thing. We have more money being invested in the United States now than at any time ever before in our history, and it's not even close. And I think the real number could be 9 or 10 trillion. We don't know everybody that's doing it. We have many. I just heard about a plant that's being built right now, a very, very top-of-the-line company. And they didn't come to the White House. They're just doing it because they're making it, because if they build here, there are no tariffs. And this is the big market. This is the market. That sets us apart from it. This is the market where everyone wants to be. Now, if I didn't come here and do this, all of a sudden we wouldn't be the market where everyone wants to be. So we're able to do it in time. But we're going to have a great announcement, and I'm not necessarily saying it's on trade. Going to the beginning, we're going to have a great announcement over the next few days, an announcement that will be so incredible, so positive. And I'm not saying, I don't want you to think it's necessarily on trade. Just to finish, we also have a situation, because everyone says, when are you going to sign deals? We don't have to sign deals. We could sign 25 deals right now, Howard, if we wanted. We don't have to sign deals. They have to sign deals with us. They want a piece of our market. We don't want a piece of their market. We don't care about their market. They want a piece of our market.
Uh-oh.
So we can just sit down, and I'll do this at some point over the next 2 weeks, and I'll sit with Howard and Scott and with our great vice president, who has done a really good job. We have some good news to report on a lot of fronts. But JD will be there, and Marco, and we're going to sit down, and we're going to put very fair numbers down, and we're going to say, here's what this country, what we want, and congratulations, we have a deal. And they'll either say, great, and they'll start shopping, or they'll say, not good, we're not going to do it. And I said, that's okay, you don't have to shop. Now, we may think, well, they have a right, that maybe we were a little bit wrong, so we'll adjust it. And then you people will say, oh, it's so chaotic. No, we're flexible. But we'll sit down, and we'll, at some point, in some cases, we'll sign some deals. It's much less important than what I'm talking about. For the most part, we're just going to put down a number and say, this is what you're going to pay to shop. And it's going to be a very fair number. It'll be a low number. We're not looking to hurt countries. We want to help countries. We want to be friendly with countries. But you keep writing about deals. When are we going to sign? When? It's very simple. We're going to say, in some cases, we want you to open up your country. In some cases, we want you to drop your tariffs. I mean, India, as an example, has one of the highest tariffs in the world. We're not going to put up with that. And they've agreed already to drop it. They'll drop it to nothing. They've already agreed. They would have never done that for anybody else but me. So we're going to put down some numbers, and we're going to say our country is open for business. And they're going to come in, and they're going to pay for the privilege of being able to shop in the United States of America. It's very simple. It's very simple. So I wish they'd keep, stop asking, how many deals are you signing this week? Because one day we'll come and we'll give you 100 deals. And they don't have to sign. All they have to do is say, oh, we'll start sending our ships right now to pick up whatever we want or to bring whatever we want. It's very, very simple. And I think my people haven't made it clear. We will sign some deals, but much bigger than that is we're going to put down the price that people are going to have to pay to shop in the United States. Think of us as a super luxury store, a store that has the goods. You're going to come and you're going to pay a price, and we're going to give you a very good price. We're going to make very good deals, and in some cases we'll adjust. But that's where it is. And we've been ripped off by everybody for 50 years, and we're just not going to do that anymore. We can't do that. And we can't let any country do that to us. We're just not going to do it anymore.
On the Houthis, can you tell us a bit more about the deal that you've reached with the Houthis that you
No,
mentioned?
it's not a deal. They've said, please don't bomb us anymore, and we're not going to attack your ships.
And where did you hear about that?
It doesn't matter where I hear it. The very good source, I could tell you. Very, very good source. Would you say, Marco? I would say pretty good, right, JD? A very good source. No, they don't want to be. They don't want to be. They don't want to be bombed anymore. Sort of thought that would happen. Behind you.
Sort of thought that would happen.
Is the U.S. prepared to walk away from that pact?
From what pact?
USMCA.
No. It's fine. It's there. It's good. We use it for certain things. It's there. We have the USMCA is a good deal for everybody. I won't say this about Mark, but I didn't like his predecessor. I didn't like a person that worked for. She was terrible, actually. She was a terrible person, and she really hurt that deal very badly because she tried to take advantage of the deal and she didn't get away with it. You know what I'm talking about. But we had a bad relationship having to do with the fact that we disagreed with the way they viewed the deal, and we ended it. We ended that relationship pretty much. The USMCA is great for all countries. It's good for all countries. We do have a negotiation coming up over the next year or so to adjust it or terminate it.
Mr. President,
I'll say a word on USMCA if I may, Mr. President. It is a basis for a broader negotiation. Some things about it are going to have to change. And part of the way you've conducted these tariffs has taken advantage of existing aspects of USMCA. So it's going to have to change. There's other elements that are come, and that's part of what we're going to discuss.
On board.
During the campaign, Prime Minister Carney talked about the American betrayal. How do you react if Canada decided not to shop in the American store as much as before and decided to partner with other countries?
Well, we don't do much business with Canada from our standpoint. They do a lot of business with us. We're at like 4%. And usually those things don't last very long. You know, we have great things, great product. The kind of product we sell, nobody else can sell, including military. Look, we make the best military equipment in the world, and Canada buys our military equipment, which we appreciate. But we make the best military equipment in the world by far. The missiles, the submarines, everything. Everything we have is really top notch. I rebuilt our military during our last term. Stupidly, we gave some away to Afghanistan, which shouldn't have happened. But that was, I think it was the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. It was just very incompetent people. But if you look, the man that's now the head of our Joint Chiefs, he led the attack on ISIS for me. That's why he's the head of the Joint Chiefs. And Raisin Kane, he was unbelievable. And as you know, we defeated ISIS. In 3 weeks. It was supposed to take 5 years. We did it in 3 weeks. And he ran the campaign. I said, I like him. But I knew him before. I went to Iraq, and we agreed to a plan, and that was the plan. And as you know, we did it in record time. So we have the best equipment in the world. We have the best, a lot of things. And but Canada, it does a lot more business with us than we do with Canada. Yeah.
Mr. President, can I ask you about your investments, Mr. President? When do you think the investments that you've announced, the trillions, will finally hit the economic data this year?
When you're saying about the tariffs?
No, about the investments that you've announced. You've announced.
Oh, it's hitting right now. Look, they're already starting AI plants. These are not people that look for financing. That's a good thing. You know, in real estate, you get a site, then you have to look for financing, you have to get your zoning, 5 years later you start building, you get a bank, then the bank's no good. These people have massive amounts of cash. The CHIPS Act was a ridiculous thing because that doesn't get them to build. All we did is hand very wealthy companies money. The CHIPS Act that was done by Biden. Billions, we give them billions of dollars. They don't even have to do anything with it. And then if you weren't, if you didn't have, and I don't want to be a wise guy, but if you didn't go with the DEI, if you didn't go with all of the different things, woke, if you weren't woke, you couldn't even use the money. You had to have a certain percentage of this and that and that and that. It's impossible to have. The companies actually complained to me. They say they gave me all this money, but nobody can get these people to do anything. I mean, look, President Obama, and if he wanted help, I'd give him help because I'm a really good builder and I build on time, on budget. He's building his library in Chicago. It's a disaster. And he said something to the effect, I only want DEI, I only want woke. He wants woke people to build it. Well, he got woke people, and they have massive cost overruns. The job is stopped. I don't know. It's a disaster. And I don't like that happening because I think it's bad for the presidency that a thing like that should happen. He's got a library that's a disaster. And he wanted to be very politically correct, and he didn't use good, hard, tough, mean construction workers that I love, Marco. I love those construction workers. But he didn't want construction workers. He wanted people that never did it before, and he's got a disaster in his hands. Like millions of dollars, really many millions of dollars over budget. And I would love to help him with it, or somebody else. I could recommend professionals. But it was not built in a professional manner. By the way, nor was in California a little train going from San Francisco to Los Angeles that's being run by Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. Did you ever hear of Gavin Newsom? He has got, that train is the worst cost overrun I've ever seen. It's like totally out of control. So then they said, all right, we won't go into San Francisco. We'll stop 25 miles short. And we won't go into Los Angeles. We'll stop 25 miles short. It's hundreds of billions of dollars for this stupid project that should have never been built. And then they realized that it would have been a lot less costly if we just gave limousine service back and forth and gave it free. They would have saved hundreds of billions of dollars. They have airplanes that go there for one 1/100th the cost. And they have cars. They have a thing called the highway that goes back and forth. It's not fully utilized. And they got involved with this project. And Gavin, you know, I always liked Gavin. I had a good relationship with him. I just got him a lot of water. You know, I sent in people to open up that water because he refused to do it. And we just got him a lot of water. If they would have had that water, and if they would have done what I said to do, they wouldn't have had the fires in Los Angeles. Those fires would have been put out very quickly. But if you think about it, and you got to take a look at this, it's the worst cost overrun I've ever seen. I've watched a lot of stupid people build a lot of stupid things, but that's the worst cost overrun I've ever seen, what's happening between San Francisco and Los Angeles. And you ought to ask about that, because this government is not going to pay. I told our very great new Secretary of Transportation, he's doing a good job, Sean Duffy, I said, we're not going to pay for that thing. They are just, it's out of control. This is something that you don't have things like this. It's not even conceivable. Like 30 times over budget, 30 times. It's the craziest thing and now it's hundreds of, it was supposed to be a simple train. And I think the media should take a look at it. And I'd love him to run for president on the other side. You know, I'd love to see that. But I don't think he's going to be running, because that one project alone, well, that and the fires and a lot of other things, pretty much put him out of the race.
Mr. President, what changes would you like to see to the USMCA? Or what changes would you like to make?
We're going to work on some subtle changes, maybe. I don't even know if we're going to be dealing with USMCA. We're dealing more with concepts right now. Look, right now, we're doing trade. We have trade. They're paying a tariff on cars and steel and aluminum. And I think we have a baseline of 10% or something like that for the tariffs. But we're getting along very well. Right now, going no further, but we have an agreement. We did something with even parts. You want to discuss that, Howard, with respect to Canada, which helps Canada out?
Sure. So we've made an arrangement with the car companies that 15% of their USMCA parts are included, and then 15% of foreign parts from the manufactured suggested retail price are not tariffed, to help domestic manufacturing really thrive.
So it gave them a chance to be able to build their car parts factories if they're going to. A lot of these companies already have factories, and what they have to do is just fill them out. But they're able to build them in the United States, so we gave them a pretty substantial period of time.
Just to clarify, Mr. President, is there anything the Prime Minister can say to you today to change your mind on tariffing Canada?
Tariffing cars?
Tariffing Canada. Is there anything he could say to you in the course of your meetings with him today that would get you to lift tariffs on Canada?
No.
Why not?
Just the way it is.
What's the first thing? If Canadians don't want it, would you respect that?
Sure, I would. But this is not necessarily a one-day deal. This is over a period of time they have to make that decision. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, if I may. Respectfully, Canadians' view on this is not going to change on the 51st day. Secondly, we are the largest client of the United States in the totality of all the goods. So we are the largest client of the United States. We have a tremendous auto sector between the two of us, and the changes that made have been helpful. 50% of a car that comes from Canada is American. That's not like anywhere else in the world. And to your question about is there one thing? No, this is a bigger discussion. There are much bigger forces involved, and this will take some time and some discussions, and that's why we're here, to have those discussions, and that is represented by who's sitting around the table.
See, the conflict is, and this is very friendly. We're not. This is not going to be like we had another little blow up with somebody else. That was a much different. This is a very friendly conversation, but we want to make our own cars. We don't really want cars from Canada, and We put tariffs on cars from Canada, and at a certain point, it won't make economic sense for Canada to build those cars. And we don't want steel from Canada because we're making our own steel, and we're having massive steel plants being built right now as we speak. We really don't want Canadian steel, and we don't want Canadian aluminum and various other things because we want to be able to do it ourselves. And we, because of past thinking of people, we have a tremendous deficit with Canada. In other words, they have a surplus with us. And there's no reason for us to be subsidizing Canada. Canada's a place that will have to be able to take care of itself economically. I assume they can. I will tell you that Trudeau, when I spoke to him, I used to call him Governor Trudeau. I think that probably didn't help his election. But when I spoke to him, I said, so why are we taking your cars? Why are we taking we want to make them ourselves. I mean, I said, and if the price of your cars went up, or if we put a tariff on your cars of 25%, what would that mean to you? He said, that would mean the end of Canada. He actually said that to me. And I said, that's a strange answer, but I understand his answer. But no, I mean, it's hard to justify subsidizing Canada to the tune of maybe $200 billion a year. We protect Canada militarily, and we always will. We're going to, that's not a money thing. But we always will. But, it's not fair. But why are we subsidizing Canada $200 billion a year, or whatever the number might be? It's a very substantial number. And it's hard for the American taxpayer to say, gee whiz, we love doing that. Thank you very much. We're going to have a very substantial. Thank you. Thank you very
much. There you have it. The OG, the 45th, now the 47th President of the United States. Well, that went as planned because Mark Carney, he didn't do what he wasn't supposed to do, which was Zelensky Trump. He didn't Zelensky Trump, but everything went nice. Okay. Everything went good. But with that being said, Kamala Harris was at the Met Gala last night. Donald Trump is trying to secure the border, end wars, renegotiate trade deals. And here's what the Dems are doing.
President and 2024 presidential candidate Kamala Harris makes a surprise appearance at the Met Gala in New York City last night. Just attending the event requires an invitation, not to mention very deep pockets. And Susie Weiss is a reporter at the Free Press, and Jimmy Fallon is the host of Fox News Saturday Night and Fox Across America. It was $75,000 per person to attend, $350,000 for a 10-person table. And here's a little bit of Kamala's word salad about art. Let me read this and have you react, Susie.
Okay.
She said, art has always had a significant impact on not just culture, but also our policies and politics. Artistic expression, whether it's dance, music, visual arts, or fashion, has a way of capturing the mood and language of the people without words. Art has the power to shape the conversation about where we are today and where we need to go. As far as word salads goes, that wasn't the worst.
It wasn't her worst. And honestly, at this point, they're private citizens. I don't begrudge them if they want to spend $150,000 on a date night. But on my way here, I took the train, and Brad Lander was in the subway station campaigning. And he was at the Met Gala last night. It was sort of like seeing Cinderella, but instead of sweeping a hearth, she was like selling bail reform. And it was not convincing.
Jimmy, I don't know if Kamala really had to pay the $75,000.
Yeah, there was.
Mostly this comes with an invitation, and you say, yes, I will be there and wear my best clothes.
But when you wonder how her campaign went through $1.5 billion in 100 days, spending habits like this kind of add up to connect the dots. As far as the statement was concerned, it actually wasn't bad by her standards, and she was thrown even being asked about art because she thought the Met Gala was a celebration of a baseball team. Let's be honest. She was like, what time's Dwight Gooden getting here? But I like that they're out there celebrating black fashion, but on a personal level, as a guy who dresses pretty snazzy, I thought she looked like a half-moon cookie. You know those cookies they sell? That was kind of an underwhelming effort as the Met Gala goes. Yeah.
I thought they were called he just asked me, what are those cookies called? There were some protests last night, Susie. I think we have this out here. This is kind of becoming common, right? You have the anti-Israel protesters outside of the Met Gala.
You know, I don't really see how the two are connected, but I think people will find any opportunity to sort of talk about that subject. It's funny. I think both sides of the aisle are kind of claiming to want to tear down the elites, but then we have two parallel elites that have sort of grown up. On one side, you have the elites that go to space. On the other side, you have the ones who go to the Met Gala or get photographed in their living rooms.
Jimmy, anti-gravity?
Well, what's so insane about this is they show up to these events where the people they're protesting have no influence or hand in making the policy that they're against. These people aren't there to open Gaza. They're there for an open bar.
Right.
They have no idea.
Well, I just want to point out to everybody, Susie, you wrote a great piece about the fashion at the gala, so you can find that at thefreepress.com. Who was your favorite? Who had the best outfit last night?
I think Sha'Carri Richardson is the closest thing we have to a dandy today. She sort of wears her hair and her nails like armor when she goes racing, and I think she looked fabulous.
I thought Serena Williams did a great job.
She had a vibe going on.
That sucker was flowing for half a New York City block.
I thought that Al Sharpton looked good.
He didn't look,
You're the
listen,
only one.
by Sharpton standards, no. It was a clean, good look, okay? He didn't look bad. Madonna stealing an outfit from Siegfried and Roy. I didn't see coming, but I was like, next time, bring a white tiger so we can pet it.
Did you have a best dress, you said?
Listen, I think the goal is to get talked about. So for the wrong reasons, Janelle Monáe probably won Best Dressed because she went on dressed as like some weird abstract painting / maze.
Love it when you speak to friends.
Yeah, it looked like something that you occupy a child with, her outfit. I don't know that it was a good outfit, but people are talking about it.
Loved having you guys. Thanks for being here.
All right. For people who actually love fashion, like my late wife, she loved fashion. Like she would go to the thrift store. She would walk around Ross, Goodwill, Kohl's, like everywhere just to get the best deals. She was legendary. So yeah, she used to watch Met Gala. But with that being said, what up, everybody? All right, updates here.
Impressed. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Now, the liberals like to say that Donald Trump has no respect for norms, as they call them. And they think an exchange between President Trump and NBC's Kristen Welker confirms their point.
You said in a recent interview you could bring him back, but you won't. Are you defying the Supreme Court, sir?
No, I'm relying on the Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi, who's very capable, doing a great job, because I'm not involved in the legality or the illegality. I have lawyers to do that, and that's why I have a great DOJ. They're not viewing the decision the way you said it. They don't view it that way at all. They think it's a totally different decision.
100%. Look, he's not a lawyer, but he has lawyers, and they believe they're following what the Supreme Court is directing. The legal team is working this through. Ben Welker and everyone at NBC thought they had him. But when you listen to the clip, he says, no, he is not defying the court, but she doesn't accept that. She keeps interrupting and pushing for the answer she wants, that Trump is somehow trying to create a constitutional crisis.
Your Secretary of State says everyone who's here, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Do you agree, Mr. President?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
Well, the Fifth Amendment says
I don't know. It seems it might say that, but if you're talking about that, then we'd have to have 1 million or 2 million or 3 million trials.
Now, let me translate for all of you out there. Donald Trump answered, I don't know, to her interpretation of the Constitution and the Fifth Amendment. He was responding to her. It would have been absurd for Trump to have accepted as gospel Welker's view of the Fifth Amendment and illegals. Why should he think that a hostile reporter without a law degree, by the way, is framing anything fairly? And as usual, his instinct was right about her and the question.
Don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know. I have to respond by saying again, I have brilliant lawyers that work for me, and they are going to obviously follow what the Supreme Court said. What you said is not what I heard the Supreme Court said. They have a different interpretation.
Asked and answered. He said, I have brilliant lawyers, and they're going to obviously follow what the Supreme Court said. Is that good enough for them? Of course, the headlines and the banners across multiple networks all day long, all yesterday, took this as Trump saying he doesn't know whether he'll follow the Constitution.
Donald Trump kind of playing fast and loose with what the Constitution and the Supreme Court require him to do.
This is really a scary moment. He's already demonstrated his willingness to disobey court orders.
President Trump has also raised eyebrows for casting doubt about his responsibility to uphold the Constitution.
Raised eyeballs. Now, after watching these media types closely for far too long, frankly, watching their feigned and farcical outrage over Trump, the only question to ask is, are there any serious journalists left at these networks? Because from these interviews, it seems they are clearly not interested in learning anything. They're only interested in presenting their narrative and getting to an aha moment.
I think the tariffs are going to be great for us because it's going to make us rich.
But you said some dolls are going to cost more. Isn't that an acknowledgement that some prices will go up?
I don't think a beautiful baby girl that's 11 years old needs to have 30 dolls. I think they can have 3 dolls or 4 dolls because what we were doing with China was just unbelievable. We had a trade deficit of hundreds of billions of dollars with China. We don't have to waste money on a trade deficit with China for things we don't need.
Remember when the media used to be against materialism? Now they're for it. Well, and from all this, NBC hopes that Americans conclude en masse that Trump's a billionaire trying to steal Christmas.
As the Grinch took the tree, as he started to shove, he heard a small sound like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast and he saw a small who. Little Cindy Lou, who was no more than 2. She stared at the Grinch and said,
Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree?
Cartoonish interviews from a press that has become a caricature of itself. Now, for years under Biden, they didn't sweat needless inflation. Prices were through the roof everywhere. It was caused by his overspending. But now?
Prices are already going up on some popular items. Tires, strollers.
This is such a dishonest interview already. Prices are down on groceries. Prices are down for oil. Prices are down for all energy. Prices are down at tremendous numbers for gasoline. Even mortgage rates are going down.
You campaigned on a promise to bring prices down on day
Well, I don't know. When you say strollers are going up, what kind of a thing? I'm saying that gasoline is going down. Gasoline is thousands of times more important than a stroller someplace.
But what do you say to...
Well, of course, the media, they think that the Americans are too short-sighted and ignorant to understand that any disruption we're seeing now or will see is temporary. That the prize at the end of all of this is trade stabilization and a reindustrialized America that will lead to really sunny days ahead, much more long-term sustainability. Now, he's talking ultimately about the survival of the United States vis-a-vis China, but the media, they're hung up on Trump hats.
The Trump Organization is selling hats that say Trump 2028.
Yeah.
Are you seriously considering a third term, Mr. President?
It's something that, to the best of my knowledge, you're not allowed to do. There are many people selling the 2028 hat, but this is not something I'm looking to do. I'm looking to have 4 great years and turn it over to somebody, ideally a great Republican.
Foiled again. The media, I don't know what to do. Now, we really need to establish some type of mental health charity for these pundits who are masquerading as reporters. They keep trying and they keep failing. But listen closely. Read between the lines. They do not sound like they actually preferred a closed border. They liked an open border. Watch.
You declared a national emergency on the southern border. When will you know that the emergency is over? Are you planning to lift it?
The big emergency right now is that we have thousands of people that we want to take out, and we have some judges that want everybody to go to
Some
court.
of them.
Of course, the radical judges are the huge problem here. He's right. How do we remain a country when the president cannot remove people who are here illegally? It's a good question. But the NBC anchor doesn't care to grapple with good questions, real questions, because she believes the emergency is not that we have millions here under fraudulent asylum claims, taking up school spots, taking up funds from local budgets. She believes the emergency is that Trump wants to do something about it. So for the press, deportation is the crime, not the act of entering the country illegally. Now, if the border is open to millions of illegals, if some terrorists slip through, if some rapists make it in, well, those are just the necessary costs of being us. A superpower that has more money and more privilege than we deserve. They believe it is immoral to pressure China on trade. They think it's immoral to hit Europe with tariffs, even as they protect their own industries. So is it any wonder that public trust in the media has cratered over the years? According to Gallup, it's at the bottom of the barrel, ranked just above Congress. So you may ask, after hearing all this, what is the point of doing these interviews? Well, unlike Joe Biden, who hid and was hidden from the media, President Trump obviously believes it's important that the American people hear directly from him, even with questions from the establishment media that are blatantly slanted. And when the public sees how willing the reporters are to simply lie about Trump's intentions or purposely misconstrue them, I think you realize once again that the press really isn't interested in the truth at all. They prefer advancing their own narrative instead of reporting on real-world problems. And with each interview, they're writing their own professional obits. And Trump, he just keeps chugging along. And that's the angle.
Just on the racetrack, journalism got out-jockeyed at the White House.
I want to treat people fairly, whether they voted for me or not. I want to have a unified country. It's very hard because the media is so fake, including, like even the way you ask questions. Every question is asked in a negative vein. There's a toy company that took a toddler's, whatever, but you don't talk about the fact that gasoline is down at numbers that nobody believes possible.
We try to make sure every question is fair, Mr. President.
Look, every question you ask says a very negative slant.
No, but look, I'm just curious.
And I'm fine for responding to you. I don't think you're very difficult at all to respond to be honest with you. But you know what? You should ask some positive things.
No one expects NBC to be a suck-up. It's NBC. But they have to acknowledge some good things are happening. And the fact that they can't do that proves who they're rooting for. And it's not America.
Prices are already going up on some popular items. Tires, strollers.
This is such a dishonest interview already. Prices are down on groceries. Prices are down for oil. Prices are down for all energy. Prices are down at tremendous numbers for gasoline.
Inflation's down across the board since Trump's been reelected. And NBC's cherry-picking two products, but for years gave Joe a pass. Trump gets sworn in and NBC starts checking price tags like a penny pincher at a flea market.
Small businesses say they are being hurt by the Chinese tariffs, and some could be forced to shut down.
And many businesses are being helped.
Are you considering tariff relief for small businesses?
Why do you always mention that, you pick up a couple of little businesses? What about the car business? They're going to make a fortune because of the tariffs. Do you know that the union, the head of the union, who was no fan of mine, Sean Fain, I guess his name is, right? He didn't endorse me. The Teamsters did. A lot of people did. A lot of unions did. But he didn't. He couldn't stand me. Now he's saying, wow, what Trump's done for the automobile, I can't believe it. He said, we've been waiting 40 years for somebody to do what Trump is doing. So why don't you mention the big car industry instead of mentioning somebody that's doing strollers?
The media worship Barack for bailing out Detroit. Bin Laden's dead. General Motors is alive. That was the Obama-Biden re-election pitch, remember? But now Trump's saving the car business, and he's not even doing it with taxpayer dollars. And the media wants to talk about something else with four wheels, strollers, even though they don't want you to have a baby to push them in. Then Kristen Welker made a confession. She wants the border unsecured.
Border crossings are at their lowest level ever recorded. Is the border?
Is that good?
Is the border now secure?
Yeah, it's really secure. Isn't it a beautiful thing when you say It's the most secure it's ever been in the history of our country. Isn't that a nice statement?
Well, I'm curious to know what it means. You declared a national emergency on the southern border. The order is still in place.
By the way,
even
it
though
means
you're saying
exactly
the border's
what you
secure.
said. It means we have the most secure border we've ever had.
Well, and I guess the question
complicated.
becomes, when will you know that the emergency is over? Are you planning to lift it at some point? Is it necessary? Because obviously the military is involved. Will you lift that emergency?
Welker thinks the border's too safe. Can we go back to Biden when there was no national emergency and we just let everybody in? Trump's emergency powers are what's keeping the border secured. During the pandemic, they never asked Biden, when are you going to give up your emergency powers? But Trump's only allowed to yield power for what, 100 days? He's fixing things too quickly?
Your Secretary of State says everyone who's here, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Do you agree, Mr. President?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
Well, the Fifth Amendment says
I don't know.
as
It seems it might say that, but if you're talking about that, then we'd have to have 1 million or 2 million or 3 million trials.
Even given those numbers that you're talking about, don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know. I have to respond by saying again, I have brilliant lawyers that work for me, and they are going to obviously follow what the Supreme Court said.
NBC took that and said, yep, we told you he's a dictator. They ran this headline. Trump, asked if he has to uphold the Constitution, says, I don't know.
New hoax alert. New hoax alert. New hoax alert.
The I don't know hoax. Trump says he's not a lawyer, but his brilliant lawyers are going to follow the orders of the Supreme Court. Get ready to get sick of that hoax. Trump's got a mass deportation mandate. Lower court judges can't let us commit national suicide. Biden let our country get invaded, and the court never stepped in to stop it. Trump was elected to stop the invasion, and now the courts step in. So the invasion doesn't get stopped? No. You can't have a functioning sovereign country if you let millions of people invade, give them lawyers, and squatters' rights. 20 million migrant trials? It took Diddy almost a year before jury selection. But Welker wasn't finished.
What do you say to those who believe you are taking the country down an authoritarian path?
Well, there you go again. Why don't you ask it a different way? Many people wanted to come into our country. Many people love Trump. I won the election. They didn't win the election. I got a lot more votes than they did. I think there was a lot of hanky-panky going on, but it was too big to rig. That's the good news. It's too big to rig. But let me just say, so when you make these statements about people say this, people, well, you know, they had their chance at the election and they lost big. So you should ask the question differently. You should say, what about the people that want to be in this country? What about the people that love this country?
When journalists pretend they're not biased, they're obviously lying. And that proves their bias. But they're not just biased against Trump, they're biased against the country. Welker then said, all right, let's cut to the chase. You're running for a third term, right?
Are you seriously considering a third term, Mr. President, even
No.
though it's prohibited by the Constitution? Or is this about staying politically viable?
I will say this. So many people want me to do it. I have never had requests so strong as that. But it's something that, to the best of my knowledge, you're not allowed to do. I don't know if that's constitutional that they're not allowing you to do it or anything else, but there are many people selling the 2028 hat. But this is not something I'm looking to do. I'm looking to have 4 great years and turn it over to somebody.
It feels like the media really wants Trump to run again, doesn't it? Just so they can say, see, we told you he's Mussolini. They want to be right so badly, the Democrats are begging for Trump to throw them in jail. AOC says, handcuff me, Homan.
He was going to threaten to refer me to DOJ because I'm using my free speech rights in order to advise people of their constitutionally guaranteed protections. And he may want to do it again today. And to that I say, come for me. You're going to have to come for me.
Here we go.
AOC has a persecution
Here we
fetish.
go.
She wants to be a political prisoner so badly for the attention so that she can be right about Trump for once and the mugshot. That mugshot helped Trump win the White House, and AOC has her eye on the prize. Trump should just arrest her just to make her the nominee so Vance or whoever can smoke her. Hollywood says Trump's going to destroy the world.
No, Jesse.
Here's Sean Penn.
I do think it's a reasonable theory that Donald Trump is not unlike the spouse of someone who leaves him, perhaps for another, who then murders their former partner because if they can't have her, nobody can. And I think Donald Trump in his solipsism may have that relationship with the world, and that this destruction is in part a power play and also a literal intention of his final out. I think he might try to destroy the world before he ages out of life.
Trump's making peace deals in Europe and in the Middle East. Sean Penn 20 years ago would have had a MAGA hat, probably with a cigarette stuck to his lip, obviously. They said the world was going to end 8 years ago when Trump got elected, and now it's going to end again. And the world was going to end from global warming too. But guess what? Antarctica gained ice for the first time in decades. Look at that. Gore said the ice sheets would be gone. And NBC says the FBI director's popping bottles with models in the club. Okay. Except he's not.
Let's circle back to a segment from Friday's show. Frank Figliuzzi was on that morning during this hour discussing the work of administration officials. At the end of that segment, Figliuzzi said that FBI Director Kash Patel has reportedly been more visible at nightclubs than at his office at FBI headquarters. This was a misstatement. We have not verified that claim.
Not a great weekend for journalism.
Oh, God.
The other big scandal this weekend, Trump posted a picture of himself as the Pope.
Some Catholics were not so happy about the image of you looking like the Pope.
Oh, I see. You mean they can't take a joke? You don't mean the Catholics. You mean the fake news media. Not the Catholics loved it. I had nothing to do with it. Somebody made up a picture of me dressed like the Pope, and they put it out on the internet. That's not me that did it. I have no idea where it came from. Maybe it was AI, but I know nothing about it. I just saw it last evening. Actually, my wife thought it was cute. She said, "Isn't that nice?" I think it's the fake news media that, they're fakers.
Melania thought Trump looked cute as Pope. Now that is love. Yesterday, the White House posted a juiced-up photo of 47 with a red lightsaber. May the 4th be with you. Happy May 4th to all the radical left lunatics who are fighting so hard to bring Sith lords, murderers, drug lords, dangerous prisoners, and well-known MS-13 gang members back into our galaxy. You're not the rebellion, you're the empire. Trump has a special place for him. He's bringing back Alcatraz.
It represents something very strong, very powerful in terms of law and order. Our country needs law and order. Alcatraz is, I would say, the ultimate, right? Alcatraz.
Whoa. Did you guys see the movie Alcatraz? Oh, man. Man, if they bring it back, it's over.
Sing Sing and Alcatraz, the movies. But it's right now a museum, believe it or not. A lot of people go there. It housed the most violent criminals in the world, and nobody ever escaped. One person almost got there, but they, as you know the story, they found his clothing rather badly ripped up, and it was a lot of shark bites, a lot of problems. Nobody's ever escaped from Alcatraz.
The media and the Democrats woke up today and were forced to talk about Alcatraz. Please don't send foreign criminals to Alcatraz.
We're forced.
You see what Trump's making them do? They look loony.
Oh, God.
And he looks like a creative problem solver. Trump's even solving a problem for balls in the White House.
We're going to make and build a ballroom, which they've wanted for probably 100 years at the White House. And it'll be a world-class, beautiful ballroom.
A ballroom that could cost millions of dollars. He says he will pay for it himself.
You will fund it.
Yeah. I'm not going to ask the government for money.
Would a dictator do that? I don't think so. Biden built a new Situation Room, made you pay for it, and then when they found the cocaine, blamed the construction workers. Trump's hoping to get that ballroom built soon because the NFL draft is coming to D.C.
I'm pleased to reveal that the 2027 NFL draft, that's a big thing, will be held right here in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., on the National Mall, and you get a little glimpse of it. I was just saying to Roger, I don't think there's ever been anything like that. That's a good idea. In fact, maybe we could use it for other things also. I have an idea. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be something that nobody else will ever be able to duplicate that, I don't suspect. It's very exciting.
So we have a military parade and the NFL draft coming to Washington. What did Biden bring to D.C. besides crime? And by the way, when I was in D.C. the other day for the Musk interview, there's no more homeless at the train station. Union Station used to be crawling with homeless. I didn't see a single sleeping bag. Even Trump's old enemies say he's doing a good job. And he's actually friendly, unlike Barack.
He never did my show when he did every other show. I had to go on the air and beg him on my 60th birthday in his 8th year in office and shame him into it, basically. And he finally did. But, you know, it was at the White House. It was in the interview room. It wasn't fun. He must have had someone around him saying, you know, I'm a very dangerous person, Louis. That's the thing. I'm a dangerous person who nobody can trust because I might tell the truth about something or ask a hard question. As far as like just feeling free to just speak exactly how I feel, yes, I felt freer to do that with Trump than Obama or Clinton.
This isn't a dictatorship. It's a counter-revolution. And journalism can't keep up. They're stuck protecting the status quo. Meanwhile, Trump's planning for the future. Who's the next horse?
Do you think the MAGA movement can survive without you as its leader?
Yes, I do.
What gives you
I think it's so strong, and I think we have tremendous people. I think we have a tremendous group of people. We talked about a number of them. You look at Marco, you look at J.D. Vance, who's fantastic. You look at, I could name 10, 15, 20 people right now just sitting here. No, I think we have a tremendous party. And you know what I can't name? I can't name one Democrat. I mean, I look at the Democrats, they're in total disarray.
How would you guys rate Trump's first 100 days? Border, great border now, for sure. Is making deals. However, the tariff is still, you know, somewhat sort of a problem. But I mean, the Prime Minister of Canada was in the Oval Office this morning. So we've never seen these types of activities before. This man is absolutely effective. I mean, you don't have to like everything he does, but he's effective. He is effective. Absolutely effective.
Then got paid even more to lie on his behalf on MSDNC. And now circle back, Jen Psaki is trying to rewrite history after enthusiastically endorsing Biden's mental and physical fitness for years. We're going to take you down memory lane, and we'll circle back later with a message for Jen Psaki. Plus, I regret to inform you, Michelle Obama is once again complaining about the burden of living in the White House. Take a look.
It's expensive to live in the White House. As many people don't know, I mean, much is not covered. You're paying for every food, every bit of food that you eat. You know, you're not paying for housing and the staff in it, but everything, even travel.
We'll analyze their finances just a little bit and see if it was worth their while. Jimmy Fallon also will respond in our other news of the day segment. And stay tuned, a Hannity event announcement. I think you'll like it. But first, our top story, promises made, promises kept. Take a look.
Border crossings are at their lowest level ever recorded. Is the border,
Is that good?
Is the border now secure?
Yeah, it's really secure.
It's
I mean,
absolutely
isn't that good?
secure.
When you say that, doesn't that just sound good? After being abused for years by an incompetent president that allowed people to pour through an open border, criminals from all over the world, murderers and insane people from mental institutions and insane asylums. Isn't it a beautiful thing when you say it's the most secure it's ever been in the history of our country? Isn't that a nice statement?
I would have liked to have heard her answer. Anyway, they said it would never happen. Now, not only is the border secure, but NBC News is, well, for once, allowing the president to tell the truth. Obviously, Democrats either open the border on purpose or they are the most incompetent people to ever walk the planet. This is the single most preventable national security disaster ever. But it's up to President Trump to clean up their mess. And his work is only getting started with border crossings down to almost nothing. Deportations on the rise. The White House is getting creative. A brand new program from the DHS now offering.
Exactly. So now the Trump administration is offering to pay illegal migrants $1,000 to self-deport. That's just smart. Absolutely smart. However, liberals are going to complain that, well, you're giving taxpayers money to illegal migrants. So, it's sort of tricky. However, it's an incentive for you to get out and potentially have an opportunity in future to come back to the United States. But if you get caught, you're never going to be able to come back to the United States, according to the Trump administration.
To buy a one-way plane ticket out of the U.S., pay $1,000 to illegal immigrants willing to self-deport. This initiative could save all of you billions and billions of dollars in court costs between what we pay in education, health care, of course, the criminal justice system and other ICE-related expenses. And that's not all. President Trump also offering to help Mexico destroy the violent cartels now designated as terrorist organizations. Take a look.
Mexico is saying that I offered to send U.S. troops into Mexico to take care of the cartels. She wants to know, is that true? Do you think I'm going to answer that question?
That's why I'm asking. We'll see.
I will answer it. It's true.
As promised, President Trump is ready and willing to use all options to secure our country, protect all of you from fentanyl, gang violence, murder, rape, and other heinous violent crimes. Now, naturally, Democrats are up in arms for whatever reason. Apparently, they really don't want the border to be secured. They don't want anyone deported, seemingly for any reason. For weeks, Congresswoman AOC has been distributing materials on how to evade ICE and avoid deportation. Now, some have accused the Congresswoman of actually aiding and abetting in lawbreaking. Doesn't seem to care. She's now trying to taunt border czar Tom Homan. Good luck in this fight. Take a look.
Tom Homan, then acting director of ICE, said that he was going to threaten to refer me to DOJ because I'm using my free speech rights in order to advise people of their constitutionally guaranteed protections, and he may want to do it again today. And to that I say, come for me.
Of course, liberals believe that illegals have constitutional rights. Tom Homan has indeed referred the leader of the Democrats to the DOJ. But as you can see, top Democrats, they continue to advocate for the rights of illegal immigrants over the safety of you and your family. In fact, fake news CNN, who could never find the courage to investigate Biden's cognitive decline, just traveled all the way to a cartel hotspot in western Mexico to come face to face with a member of the notorious Sinaloa cartel in order to ask him, how do you feel about being labeled a terrorist organization by the Trump administration? I wonder how he's feeling. Let's look.
According to the Trump administration, you are a terrorist. I mean, the cartels have been labeled a foreign terrorist organization. What do you make of that?
Está fea la situación, ¿verdad? Está fea la situación, pero pues todos tenemos que comer.
What's your message to Donald Trump if he's watching this?
Mis respetos, él tiene que según él, buscar lo mejor para los suyos. Pero el detalle.
What in the world is going on here? What? How do you feel about my president calling you a terrorist? Oh yeah, this is the last straw right here.
Que ya están los consumidores, ¿no? Si no hubiera consumidores, pues uno le parara.
Unfortunately, thanks to the Biden administration, cartels have a serious foothold right here in this country, in the U.S. In fact, gang activity across the country exploded thanks to the Democratic Party. And here are just a few recent examples of what Americans deal with every single solitary day. On Friday, several MS-13 gang members, all locked up for violent crimes. They launched a coordinated attack at a Virginia state prison, brutally stabbing 3 correctional officers there. On Sunday, young members of Tren de Aragua assaulted a pair of NYPD officers in Times Square in New York City. In California, 3 illegal immigrants were charged with a horrific murder. They are accused of killing a man during a home invasion. One of the suspected killers was facing 2 ICE detainers because of his criminal record, but was shielded by California's sanctuary city policies. Great job, Gavin. This is who Democrats are protecting, not you, not your kids, not your grandkids, not law-abiding citizens. They are protecting criminal, illegal aliens and fighting tooth and nail to keep them in your neighborhood. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey.
Ooh. Welcome to America.
The president, as you know, is facing...
Okay, wait. Before we check this out, we're going to check out this right here.
Illegal immigration, which has been around for a long time as an invasion, which is fine for you if you want to do that. But why is that unusual that there's a process?
So we were just on Fox, right? And Jesse was saying, MSNBC was saying, Trump said, I don't know if I need to uphold the Constitution. And guess what? CNN is doing the same. Same thing MSNBC did, CNN is doing the same. So here we go.
Process to go through to deport people. I mean, that's actually just how the system works.
Do you know how long it takes for this process, this paperwork to get people out? The guy that we've all been weeping and gnashing teeth over, the guy we sent to El Salvador, was in the country 14 years illegally.
But what about what
We've got
Dante's-
millions of people who have gamed this system,
But what
and
about
now
what
we're going to
Dante-
game it
Either you
some more.
believe in the Constitution or you don't. And
I believe
and-
in the sovereignty of the United States, or you don't.
But
So you don't believe
do
in
you believe in the
I
Constitution?
believe in the sovereignty of the United
So you
States,
don't
and I
believe in the
believe, and I
Constitution.
believe we've
And
been
you don't
invaded.
believe that
Can
Donald
I just
Trump
ask a
should
question?
abide by the Constitution?
Just a serious question.
Of course I do.
Do you
And of
believe-
course I believe.
Do you believe that he does?
And I believe that he will follow, just as he said, what the Supreme Court says. But the policy debate is worth
From
having.
the very beginning,
millions
of Trump,
upon millions of
when
people are
Trump
here, and they will not
campaigning,
leave, and he has to get them out.
always
I agree with you with
believed
that, Scott.
in executive
Hold on a
overreach.
second, Dante. Let me just let her
Always. From the very beginning, from 2016, he has believed in executive overreach. We've all seen that. He said it. It was clear. Are you saying now that you don't believe that he believes in executive overreach?
I believe that he believes his mandate from the American people is to solve illegal immigration. And I would ask you the same question in reverse. Did Joe Biden, when he said he would faithfully uphold and execute the laws of this land, not mean it when he decided to let millions upon millions of people into the country? Because he did not execute the laws.
I thought that you were going to squirm out of that question.
I'm not squirming.
Yes, you did. And that's why I prepared for it, because I want to read you something. At the core of Trump's candidacy is a call for greater executive authority with willful disregard for the constitutional limits placed on our chief executive. Trump especially promises to force individual companies to do things he wants them to do, or else he promises punishment to those who displease him, which appeals to the miserable man at the airport bar. Do you recognize that?
Yeah, I wrote it.
Exactly.
And here's
so
the deal.
what, he hasn't
And
changed,
here's
so
the
what
di-
has changed
and here-
about you?
And here's the difference between then and now. This country has been invaded. The president was elected
So
to
you
end the
changed your
invasion.
opinion on the Constitution?
My opinion is the president needs to pull every lever he can to solve illegal
So
immigration.
you've answered
crisis.
that question by saying that you don't mind him being
Do you
unconstitutional.
believe that every immigrant here is the same? You can't believe that because
Yes.
they're not. They're not.
I do.
There's some good,
believe
there's
every-
some bad. There's some criminal,
I
they're
believe,
not.
I believe
And how do
everybody
you-
who's here
but
illegally
hear
is
this
here
out.
illegally.
How do
Not
you
all are
differentiate-
violent, but all are here
But
illegally.
how do you differentiate if nobody gets a hearing, if you don't have due process?
I-
How do you distinguish one from the other?
Well,
so
I-
what you're saying is every person that's here in this country is a criminal, is a gang member,
No.
should be thrown
No.
in jail.
Every person who's
That's
here
what's
illegally,
happening.
every person who is here illegally is in fact a criminal. Some of them do come here and commit violent crimes
Some of
and
them, but
still
how do you
aren't
differentiate
deported.
if you don't have a
Well,
process?
some have records and some don't.
But they
I'm
still
here to
have
break the news.
constitutional rights.
They're all
Hold on,
going
hold on a
away.
They still have
second.
constitutional
I want to make
rights.
sure that we're not straying from the point of this conversation, which is a question about due process rights. And so I'll just ask really quickly, do you believe that undocumented immigrants have to have due process rights, that that's constitutionally what they are entitled to?
I'm unsure of what that means in the context of some of the cases that we've been dealing with in the news lately, because I've been looking at these people who have been here for 14 years, have been through numerous immigration courts.
All right, well,
I have a question about what does that mean?
All right,
Yes, I agree, but what does it mean?
Let me bring the Supreme Court into this since you brought them up. This is what 2 different Supreme Court justices have said about this issue in the past.
Do undocumented immigrants have the 5 freedoms? Oh, I think so. I think anybody who's present in the United States has protections under the United States Constitution.
The 14th Amendment, it doesn't speak of citizens, as some constitutions grant rights to citizens, but our Constitution says persons. And the person is every person who is here, documented or undocumented.
Batya, I wonder why it's so difficult to understand a pretty simple concept. If Trump wants to deport illegal immigrants, he can do that, but he ought to do it legally. Do you think that that is a fair thing to say at this moment?
I do. I do think the media is pulling another, dictator for a day hoax right now, because it's clear when Trump said, I don't know, what he meant was what he finished his sentence saying, which is, I don't know where the Supreme Court is going to come down on whether deporting these illegal migrants is constitutional or not. It's very obvious, yet every single headline...
You just called it a hoax, so let's just play. Can we play it again in the control room, what Trump said in response to Kristen Walker?
Your Secretary of State says everyone who's here, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Do you agree, Mr. President?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
Well, the Fifth Amendment says...
I don't know. It seems it might say that, but if you're talking about that, then we'd have to have 1 million or 2 million or 3 million trials.
So can I respond to that?
Yeah.
So what does it mean for an illegal immigrant to have due process? We would all agree that they do not have the same level of due process that we do. For example, we are entitled to a jury trial, and they are entitled to a hearing before an immigration judge. Do you know who the immigration judges work for? They work for the executive branch. They work for, which means that they work for Donald Trump, which means that he is in charge of the due process that they get.
But Donald Trump doesn't even want to give him even that due process. I think that's part of the problem.
He said not sure the level to which they are entitled.
She didn't ask about what level of due process.
That's a very basic statement.
No, the reason I'm jumping in here is because she did not ask him should they have a jury trial? Should they not have a jury trial? She just said whatever process they are entitled to. If they're immigrants and they're in an immigration proceeding, then yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a different type of proceeding. It's actually more of an administrative proceeding.
It's a much lower standard as well.
But still, even still, they are trying to circumvent that minimal amount of due process.
Then why
and the question is,
let me give you
why?
an example. I'll give you an example. In the example of Kilmar Obrego Garcia, I believe he already got his due process.
Yes.
He had a deportation order. So for Trump to be asked, does that man deserve more due process? I think the answer is absolutely not. I don't want another dime of my taxpayer dollars to go to. He was not supposed to be sent to El Salvador. He had a deportation.
Let's put Kilmar Obrego Garcia to the side for just
I'm just using him as an example
I know that you are,
of someone who
but I
Trump
also
could
think
very legitimately say
Okay.
does not need any more due process.
Well, it's not Trump's decision to decide that. I think that's the end of the story, is that it's not Trump who decides when the due process ends. It's a process for a reason.
Or to unilaterally decide this person is good, this person is bad, because I saw a picture of fake tattoos or whatever it is.
All right. Yeah, I wanna go liberal. So here we go. Here we go. So here's a voter right here who voted for Trump, according to CNN, and is now saying something else. Listen to this.
And it is National Small Business Week, and we will continue our series speaking with small business owners from coast to coast about Trump's tariffs. Some are optimistic, many are not. Some love them, many do not. My next guest went viral with a letter to President Trump about the tariffs, writing, quote, Every day this continues, more businesses will fail. Solving one issue but hurting the very people who voted for you is not the best outcome, unquote. Stephen Borelli joins me now. He's the founder and CEO of Cuts Clothing. It's an online retailer based in Hawthorne, California, and is a Trump supporter. Stephen, thanks so much for joining us. You built this business from the ground up, as you described in your post. Can you tell us about what your store, what Cuts looks like now versus what it looked like before the tariffs went into place?
Yeah, the tariffs, we are one of those businesses that use the 3-2-1 loophole, as they say, to import goods from China into Mexico, and we would bring them over the border every day. And when the 145% tariff hit, it caused a lot of stress on our business, where we had to raise prices, and it caused demand to go down a little bit. And I just want to reiterate, I am a Trump supporter, and I believe he's going to figure out how to help us out. But I just want to say that, Cuts represents the small businesses and the American dream, and the 145% tariff really threatens that.
You voted for President Trump 3 times, in fact, 2016, 2020, 2024. What do you say to the Trump supporters out there who say, hey, he brought up tariffs all the time in the campaign? I mean, what did you think as a business owner when you heard that? Were you skeptical of it, or did you think they would be more targeted like they were in the first term? How do you respond to that criticism?
Us e-commerce retailers, we don't like cheap China goods flooding the market. It creates really hard competition, and that makes it hard for us. So we're happy with Trump cracking down on that. But the thing that I'm trying to reiterate is that the speed of which it's happening is very difficult for businesses to react to. What we need is a 90-day off-ramp, just like every other country's, and then we can adjust. We can start ordering inventory from different countries, and we can be with him in his goal of, bringing onshore talent and onshore manufacturing. But right now, the speed of which he's doing it is making it very difficult, and a lot of businesses won't make it 90 days if this continues.
Exactly. Trump is so fast. He's a billionaire. He's a successful person. He's been doing this for years and years and years, making deals. So as an entrepreneur, he's used to speed. And this is a country. This isn't like the United States is sort of kind of like a business, but not like an LLC type of business. This is huge. All right. There's so many parts to it. So many sections, subsections. In those subsections, there are so many subsections as well. So it's hard to move so fast because so many people would be left behind. But I believe there would be some sort of adjustment. Okay. And China is already willing to talk with the United States. The whole reason this tariff started was because of China. He wanted to get President Xi's attention. Of course, other countries, we had to renegotiate trade deals. However, President Xi of China was the main reason for this tariff, because China is the largest manufacturer on earth. And the United States, of course, is the largest consumer. So small businesses are definitely going to feel the heat, no doubt, no doubt. But he's used to speed. He's been moving fast his entire life. So, and the country needs some speed as well. Like, if you don't move fast, so many things would go down the drain. And he has to move fast. He has Russia, Ukraine, he has Iran, talking about nuclear weapons, the border, inflation, so many things he has to do. So he's moving really fast. I get it. But there has to be some sort of balance in some way, shape, or form. I respect him. I definitely admire his authenticity, his hard work, is very diligent, and he's changed the way Americans vote and the way politicians actually would communicate with voters. He's changed it. He's a legend. His name would live forever. At this point, his name would definitely live forever. And hopefully, I want him to win because if Trump wins, America wins. And that's the facts. When people say, well, like, you live in the United States, you live in America, you want to pray for your country. You want to pray for your leaders. You don't want to point fingers and hope and wish they make mistakes and hope and wish everything goes to shit. You don't want that. You want to pray for your leaders. You want to pray for your country. I mean, we all live here. Come on, y'all. You know, so I pray for him. I hope he gets everything right. And, you know, everything just works out. But overall, I think he's doing great.
The larger point of these tariffs, as President Trump explains it, is he wants to remake the American economy so there's more manufacturing going on in the United States so that you are buying your products from Indiana and Tennessee instead of China via Mexico. Is that even possible in 2025?
Yeah, that's going to take a large investment because right now, since the 1980s, at least in the textile industry, a lot of the manufacturing went over to China and Asia, and the current infrastructure is really outdated, so the quality is just not where it used to be. And that's the big misconception. The Asian manufacturers are very, very high tech and produce very high quality. So if it came back to the U.S., it would take a lot of infrastructure and grants like China does to American companies to bring it back into the U.S. And for the record, I'm a huge fan of that. I would love to support Trump's vision in that, but it's going to take time. And if I could say anything, if President Trump was listening, is we need more time to accomplish your agenda.
Well, he's known to watch cable news. His folks certainly text me when we air something they don't like. Why don't you just give a message to him and maybe he'll see it? What do you want to say to him?
President Trump, as a longtime supporter of your mission and to make America great again, I want to be a part of that with you. But we e-commerce companies all across the United States, we need more time. Give us a 90-day off-ramp to get off of our China goods and just tell us the plan. If you tell us the plan, we can operate and we can know what to do. The hard part about everything that's happening right now is we're trying to manage our business from day to day, and that's very difficult. And a lot of small businesses, they don't have the cash flow to get through a 90-day negotiation, and it's going to devastate a lot of businesses like Cuts. You know, I'm in a group chat with $1 billion worth of small businesses, and there's several in there that are telling me, hey, Stephen, 30 days or 60 days, we might not be able to make it. There's been too many adjustments to the supply chain that are just being really devastating on our business. 145% is essentially an embargo. And by cutting off our products to be able to sell them, it's going to be really difficult. So we're with you. We want to be a part of your mission to make America great again, but we just need more time.
Stephen Borrelli, thank you so much. And for those who want to know more about him, Stephen Borrelli at Cuts in Hawthorne, California. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate your time. Topping our pop culture lead today, Hollywood is reeling after President Trump announced he wants a new 100% tariff imposed on movies made outside the United States. And while the White House concedes no final decision has been made or details have been formulated, the film industry is fuzzy on how this tariff plan would work in its final cut. While goods are pretty straightforward when it comes to tariffs, intellectual property is not. Joining us now, veteran Hollywood movie producer Mark Varodian, whose credits include the Transformers series and Pet Sematary, also the founder of Producers United. Mark, thanks for joining us. So take a listen to President Trump talking about Hollywood this afternoon.
They have the nice sign and everything's good, but they don't do very much. A lot of it's been taken to other countries, and a big proportion. And I'm actually going to meet with some because, you know, there's some advantages, I guess, and I'm not looking to hurt the industry. I want to help the industry.
Now, it is true, as you know better than I do, that there are incentives for Hollywood to shoot in, say, London. Will tariffs, do you think, help bring filmmaking back to the U.S.?
Well, you know, I will say, as somebody, I represent really the producing community, but somebody who's very close with also, you know, all the other unions, SAG, DGA, WGA, and IATSE, and Teamsters. It's encouraging for us to see President Trump recognized real economic struggles in the film and television industry, which has been plaguing us for the last, several years. We've had COVID problems, we've had strike problems, we've had fire problems, and every time we try to climb out of this hole that we're in, something new happens. So, the conversation about tariffs today was encouraging in the sense that we put a spotlight on ourselves, but we don't necessarily think that's the best way forward.
Right. I want you to take a listen to a clip that caught our ears. Former Parks and Rec cast members Rob Lowe and Adam Scott on Lowe's podcast recently, talking about some of the challenges of the film industry, especially when it comes to shooting in LA versus other people. Take a listen.
It's cheaper to bring 100 American people to Ireland than to walk across the lot at Fox, past the sound stages and do it there. There are no tax credits. So all those other places are offering 40%. Yeah. 40%. Oh, yeah. And then on top of that, there's other stuff that they do. Yeah. And then and that's not even talking about the union stuff. Mm-hmm. That's just tax economics of it all.
I know people like Rob and Adam would rather shoot in LA than have to travel to Ireland. I've also heard lawmakers in Sacramento seem averse to providing incentives to your industry in Hollywood. Is that true?
It's true. I mean, it's something that we've been struggling with, and we've been very engaged lately. This year, California is looking to double their tax incentives, but what we're looking for is the equivalent of what other countries who are filmmaking-oriented countries like Great Britain, et cetera, to match. We're looking to match what they do. They have federal incentives. They have state incentives. Australia is another great example. So we would like to get California incentives here. That being said, tariffs are something that are a little bit trickier for us because we are not a car business. We are not steel. We don't, we don't operate that way. We're intellectual property. So, it's a little bit different. When we make movies, we choose to make them abroad, oftentimes for the subject matter. And so, that it's a little trickier for us to say we need to make things here because oftentimes part of our storytelling is shooting these things abroad. So we're excited about the idea that finally we're getting some attention on this issue. And we would love nothing more than to make movies in the United States. We all want to sleep in our own beds. We all, want to stay at home and see our families. But, on the other hand, sometimes that's just not possible in terms of the production requirements of a film.
All right. Welcome to the live show. How are you guys doing today?
We do have breaking news coming in just now. The FAA has just now imposed a new ground delay for Newark-bound flights this morning. As we mentioned, the 9th straight day of staffing shortages and snarled travel.
How many of y'all stay in New Jersey? Do you travel a lot? What is going on at the New Jersey airport? What is going on in Newark?
At that airport, also this morning, we have new details on what really was some terrifying communication breakdowns that led to this now more than a week of chaos. Newly obtained audio offers a glimpse into the moments air traffic control lost communication and radar with planes in the air, leaving air traffic controllers essentially flying blind. Here's some of the audio where the tower tells one plane that the radar is down.
9674 approach. 74, we lose radar contact lost. We lost our radar. So just stay on the arrival and maintain 6,000.
So that incident was on April 28th. It was so traumatic. Sources tell CNN at least 5 employees have now taken special government leave to recover from the stress of it. And that has compounded the ongoing staffing shortage and further adding to the travel mess for thousands of flyers going through Newark, one of the nation's busiest airports. And on Monday, the FAA acknowledged that antiquated air traffic control system, that system is impacting its workforce. And the Transportation Department says it's going to be announcing plans to overhaul that system. But those are long-term plans, and those plans are going to be coming out Thursday. Let's get over to CNN's Pete Muntean for much more on this. You obtained this audio. It's really important to hear. And now we have this breaking news of further delays.
Yeah, and the latest here, Kate, is that the FAA imposed another delay for flights bound to Newark until midnight tonight due to these air traffic control staffing shortages. Now the 9th straight day of these delays. That new audio you speak of and the new statement from the FAA are essentially confirming our reporting that paints the best picture yet of how this all started. This all goes back to an incident last Monday at a key radar facility that's responsible for Newark flights. And a source familiar with that incident tells me that Newark approach controllers lost both radio and radar systems for an undisclosed amount of time, meaning that they were essentially doing their jobs blind. It's called NORDO, no radio. The source also tells me that led to at least 5 controllers taking what's called trauma leave, that legally entitles controllers to 45 days off. It's a huge development and explains the repeat delays that have caused these staffing shortages. I want you to listen now to the audio captured by liveatc.net. And in it, a controller is explaining to a smaller airplane to essentially go away because he has no ability to pick up that plane on radar. Listen.
No, you do not have a Bravo clearance. We lost our radar and it's not working correctly. Radar service terminated, squawk VFR, green change approved. If you want a Bravo clearance, you can just call the towers when you get closer. Okay, I'll wait for that frequency from you, okay? Okay, no, just squawk VFR, look up the tower frequencies. We don't have a radar, so I don't know where you are.
You can hear the frustration there in the controller's voice. We also have this new analysis from flight tracking site Flight Radar 24, and in it, it says that 15 to 20 flights were being controlled by Newark approach controllers during last Monday's equipment outage. The FAA has been investigating the cause here, although all agree that the aging technology at the FAA is at the center of this problem, what's been plaguing that agency for decades. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says the Trump administration will announce a sweeping new overhaul of air traffic control sometime this week, but still no clear timetable here, Kate, on when these delays at Newark will end. The FAA says the controllers who are out on trauma leave simply cannot be replaced quickly because their jobs are highly specialized. You can't just drag and drop a controller from one location and put them in another. It's a really tough spot they're in right now.
Yeah, and the overhaul necessary that's going to be announced, but that clearly is going to take time. That's not
decades.
Decades. I mean, so there is a very, very immediate, serious short-term problem as well as the long-term issue. Pete, thank you so much. Pete's going to be bringing us breaking news on this throughout the morning. John?
All right, with us now, CNN aviation analyst Miles O'Brien. Miles, good morning. This new bit of information reported by Pete there, that these controllers overseeing Newark lost radar and radio for a stretch of time. How significant, how dangerous is that?
It's very significant, very potentially dangerous. The controllers handled it as they should, did not allow the traffic to enter the sector. Of course, they didn't know where the traffic exactly was. John, this is such a perfect storm. You have this aging infrastructure here, this aging system that is held together with baling wire and duct tape. On top of that, chronic shortage of air traffic controllers. And then as a potential answer to that problem, the FAA decides to move some of the positions from the New York area down to Philadelphia in order to try to address staffing issues. And in so doing, the communication failed. So you've got all these things coming together, and throw in the fact that they're building a new runway or rebuilding a runway at Newark. Really have a perfect storm scenario here.
So they've had now, just announced minutes ago, this 9th straight day of delays. In this case, it's ground delays for inbound flights. It's 9 so far, but given that these are systemic issues, will it be 90 days? I mean, how long will it take for them to get this straight?
Well, you're right. A lot of this is you cannot snap your fingers. It's not like hiring somebody at a fast food restaurant to be an air traffic controller. A certified professional controller has many, many years of training. You just don't do that overnight. The one thing that could give air travelers in and out of Newark some optimism is that runway construction is finite and should be done in the June timeframe. But that's a lot of delays between now and then. And I guess the best thing to advise travelers is to probably book around Newark.
Very quickly, Miles, is flying, especially around Newark, less safe than it was a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago?
You know, I think, as I always say, the controllers, the individuals who run this system daily perform quiet, heroic acts in spite of a system that is built to set them up for failure. I believe in those people doing their job, but there's only so much stress they can take.
Miles O'Brien, thank you for explaining this so well. Great to see you this morning. Appreciate it.
Joining me now to discuss Harvey Skolnick, a retired FAA air traffic controller. Harvey, thanks for being with us. First, I want to ask, what is it like to be in a near-miss situation? Because I'm trying to understand why these air traffic controllers would be so traumatized that they would need to take leave. Because when we listen to their voices, right, it always sounds calm.
Well, they are calm most of the time because they know what they're doing. This was a situation at Newark when you lose radar and radio at the same time. That is an occurrence which in all my 38 years of the FAA only happened once to me. So that is an extreme situation.
Can you talk about this idea of the shortage of air traffic controllers? A source familiar with the situation told CNN the controllers didn't just walk off the job. They were traumatized because their equipment failed. They says it's written in the regulations that if they experience a traumatic event, they can take time off to see a psychiatrist. The people working that day did that. What more can you tell us about this kind of program? It's obviously a high pressure job, but I can't imagine what the pressure is like this last couple months.
You know, it is a high pressure job, but most of the people that I have worked with is what made the job so charming. The pressure situations that allowed you to make quick decisions, look forward ahead in making your decision, make quick changes when your first decision didn't plan out the way you had expected. So, but it's a matter of having the aptitude for that job. Now, these controllers at Newark, many of them are unhappy to begin with. They were about a year ago working at a facility in Westbury, Long Island, and suddenly they found themselves working at a facility at the Philadelphia airport. So they're not too happy to begin with because they've had to relocate. So in addition, they're short-staffed. And that seems to be the problem of the FAA right now. The FAA, for years, as I can recall, in the busier facilities, has always operated short of the required number of fully certified controllers that were programmed for those facilities.
The Trump
administration might be having a morale issue.
Say more about that, because obviously there are being cuts made across federal government. People were told, well, maybe you may want to step away. The president at one point talking about DEI. There's just been a lot of incoming, so to speak, for air traffic control. But when I read what you've written in the past, it was already in a weakened state, right? Given funding shortages through many administrations.
Yeah, so, first, these days controllers are working in a fishbowl. Everyone has a cell phone now and a smartphone, and they hear every transmission every controller makes at every facility in America. And so when they make minor mistakes, which sometimes they do, even those mistakes seem to be become more important than they really are. I'm not sure that the frequency of minor errors is any more now than it ever was, but we just hear about it more. And so they just find themselves more under the microscope than ever before. I mean, it's a tough job to begin with. And when you make every transmission and worry about, how close airplanes are going to come, then it's a difficult way to operate in that job.
All right. Where are we? Currently cooking. All right. I'm cooking. Can you guys hear me? I'm cooking. I am cooking, ladies and gentlemen. All right, here we go. Hands exchange? I don't think it was hands exchange.
Thank you for your hospitality and above all for your leadership. You're a transformational president. The focus on the economy with a relentless focus on the American worker, securing your borders, ending the scourge of fentanyl and other opioids, and securing the world. And I've been elected with my colleagues here, with the help of my colleagues here. I'm going to spread the credit to transform Canada with a similar focus on the economy, securing our borders, again on fentanyl, much greater focus on defense and security, securing the Arctic and developing the Arctic. And the history of Canada and the U.S. is we're stronger when we work together, and there's many opportunities to work together. And I look forward to, addressing some of those issues that we have, but also finding those areas of mutual cooperation so we can move forward.
That's great. Very nice. Thank you very much. It's a very nice statement. I have a lot of respect for this man, and I watched him come up, in a sense, through the ranks when he wasn't given much of a chance, and he ran a really great campaign. He did a really great debate. I think the debate was very helpful. I was going to raise my hand. I don't know if that's good or bad. I shouldn't say that. That might hurt you. But no, he ran a really great election, I thought. And yeah, something could happen. Something could happen. Yeah, please.
What's the top concession you want out of Canada? The top concession you want out of Canada?
Concession?
Yes.
Friendship.
But that's not a concession.
No, we're going to be friends with Canada. Regardless of anything, we're going to be friends with Canada. Canada is a very special place to me. I know so many people that live in Canada. My parents had relatives that lived in Canada, my mother in particular. And no, I love Canada. I have a lot of respect for the Canadians. Wayne Gretzky, I mean, how good, the great one. You happen to have a very, very good hockey player right here on the Capitals, who I have a lot of respect. He is a big, tough cookie, too. Just broke the record. And he's a great guy. And, we had the team here, and I got to know a lot of the players. But now Canada is a very special place. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, Mr. Prime Minister, I'd like to get your response to this too. Mr. President, you have said that Canada should become the 51st state.
Yeah. No. Well, I still believe that, but it takes two to tango, right? But no, I do. I mean, I believe it would be a massive tax cut for the Canadian citizens. You get free military, you get tremendous medical cares and other things. There would be a lot of advantages, but it would be a massive tax cut. And it's also a beautiful, as a real estate developer, I'm a real estate developer at heart. When you get rid of that artificially drawn line, somebody drew that line many years ago with like a ruler, just a straight line right across the top of the country. When you look at that beautiful formation when it's together, I'm a very artistic person. But when I looked at that beauty, I said, that's the way it was meant to be. But, I do feel it's much better for Canada. But we're not going to be discussing that unless somebody wants to discuss it. I think that there are tremendous benefits to the Canadian citizens, tremendously lower taxes, free military, which honestly we give you essentially anyway, because we're protecting Canada if you ever had a problem. But I think it would really be a wonderful marriage because it's two places that get along very well. They like each other a lot.
Well, if I may, as you know from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale.
That's true.
We're sitting in one right now, Buckingham Palace that you visited as well.
That's true.
And having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign last several months, it's not for sale, won't be for sale ever. But the opportunity is in the partnership and what we can build together. And we have done that in the past. And part of that, as the president just said, is with respect to our own security. And my government is committed for a step change in our investment in Canadian security and our partnership. And I'll say this as well, that the president has revitalized international security, revitalize NATO, and us playing our full weight in NATO, and that will be part of it.
And they have, I must say, Canada is stepping up the military participation because Mark knew, they were low, and now they're stepping it up, and that's a very important thing. But never say never. Never say never.
What would it take to get the tariffs off of Canada?
Well, we'll be talking about different things. Like, we want to protect our automobile business, and so does Mark. But we want to make the automobiles, and we want to, we have a tremendous abundance of energy, more than any country. We have, just in Alaska alone, ANWR has been reopened now. ANWR is probably the largest find anywhere in the world. They say it's larger than Saudi Arabia. I don't know, but it's a lot. But we have tremendous amounts of energy. Other countries don't. We're both lucky in that way. They have energy. We have energy. We have more than we can ever use and more than we could ever sell, actually. And you have the same thing. So we're two countries that are very lucky. If you look at China, they don't have that. It's a big disadvantage. Other countries, most countries don't have. Most countries don't have that. So Canada and us, we have a lot of advantages over other places.
When you consider what Mr. Carney just said, that Canada is not for sale, does this make the discussion a little more difficult to start on?
No, not at all. No, not at all. No, time will tell. It's only time. But I say never. I've had many, many things that were not doable, and they ended up being doable, and only doable in a very friendly way. But if it's to everybody's benefit, Canada loves us, and we love Canada. That's, I think, the number one thing that's important. But we'll see. I mean, over time, well see what happens.
Is the U.S. prepared to walk away from that pact?
From what pact?
USMCA.
No, it's fine. It's there. It's good. We use it for certain things. It's there. We have the USMCA is a good deal for everybody. I won't say this about Mark, but I didn't like his predecessor. I didn't like a person that worked for. She was terrible, actually. She was a terrible person. And she really hurt that deal very badly because she tried to take advantage of the deal and she didn't get away with it. You know who I'm talking about. But we had a bad relationship having to do with the fact that we disagreed with the way they viewed the deal, and we ended it. We ended that relationship pretty much. The USMCA is great for all countries. It's good for all countries. We do have a negotiation coming up over the next year or so to adjust it or terminate it.
Mr. President, I'll say a word on USMCA, if I may, Mr. President. It is a basis for a broader negotiation. Some things about it are going to have to change. And part of the way you've conducted these tariffs has taken advantage of existing aspects of USMCA. So it's going to have to change. There's other elements that have come, and that's part of what we're going to discuss.
Right.
During the campaign, Prime Minister Carney talked about the American vitriol. How do you react if Canada decided not to shop in the American store as much as before and decided to partner with other countries?
Well, we don't do much business with Canada from our standpoint. They do a lot of business with us. We're at like 4%. And usually those things don't last very long. We have great things, great product. The kind of product we sell, nobody else can sell, including military. Look, we make the best military equipment in the world, and Canada buys our military equipment, which we appreciate. But we make the best military equipment in the world by far. The missiles, the submarines, everything. Everything we have is really top notch. I rebuilt our military during our last term. Stupidly, we gave some away to Afghanistan, which shouldn't have happened. But that was, I think it was the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. It was just very incompetent people. But if you look, the man that's now the head of our Joint Chiefs, he led the attack on ISIS for me. That's why he's the head of the Joint Chiefs. And Raising Cane, he was unbelievable. And as you know, we defeated ISIS in 3 weeks. It was supposed to take 5 years. We did it in 3 weeks. And he ran the campaign. I said, I like him. But I knew him before. I went to Iraq, and we agreed to a plan, and that was the plan. And as you know, we did it in record time. So we have, You know, we have the best equipment in the world. We have the best, a lot of things. And, but Canada, it does a lot more business with us than we do with Canada. Yeah.
Mr. President, what changes would you like to see to the USMCA?
We're going to work on some subtle changes, maybe. I don't even know if we're going to be dealing with USMCA. We're dealing more with concepts right now. Look, right now, we're doing trade. We have trade. They're paying a tariff on cars and steel and aluminum. And I think we have a baseline of 10% or something like that for the tariffs. But we're getting along very well. Right now, going no further, but we have an agreement. We did something with even parts. You want to discuss that, Howard, with respect to Canada, which helps Canada out?
Sure. So we've made an arrangement with the car companies that 15% of their USMCA parts are included, and then 15% of foreign parts from the manufactured suggested retail price are not tariffed to help domestic manufacturing really thrive.
So it gave them a chance to be able to build their car parts factories if they're going to. A lot of these companies already have factories, and what they have to do is just fill them out. But they're able to build them in the United States, so we gave them a pretty substantial period of time.
Just to clarify, Mr. President, is there anything the Prime Minister can say to you today to change your mind on tariffing Canada?
Tariffing cars?
Tariffing Canada. Is there anything he could say to you in the course of your meetings with him today that would get you to lift tariffs on Canada?
No,
Why not?
just the way it is.
What's the first state?
Yeah.
If Canadians don't want it, would you respect that?
Sure, I would. But this is not necessarily a one-day deal. This is over a period of time they have to make that decision. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, if I may. If respectfully, Canadians' view on this is not going to change on the 51st state. Secondly, we are the largest client of the United States in the totality of all the goods. So we are the largest client of the United States. We have a tremendous auto sector between the two of us, and the changes that made have been helpful. 50% of a car that comes from Canada is American. That's not like anywhere else in the world. And to your question about is there one thing? No, this is a bigger discussion. There are much bigger forces involved, and this will take some time and some discussions, and that's why we're here, to have those discussions, and that is represented by who's sitting around the table.
See, the conflict is, and this is very friendly. We're not. This is not going to be like we had another little blow up with somebody else. That was a much different. This is a very friendly conversation, but we want to make our own cars. We don't really want cars from Canada, and we put tariffs on cars from Canada, and at a certain point, it won't make economic sense for Canada to build those cars. And we don't want steel from Canada because we're making our own steel, and we're having massive steel plants being built right now as we speak. We really don't want Canadian steel, and we don't want Canadian aluminum and various other things because we want to be able to do it ourselves. And we, because of, past thinking of people, we have a tremendous deficit with Canada. In other words, they have a surplus with us. And there's no reason for us to be subsidizing Canada. Canada's a place that will have to be able to take care of itself economically. I assume they can. I will tell you that Trudeau, when I spoke to him, I used to call him Governor Trudeau. I think that probably didn't help his election. But when I spoke to him, I said, so why are we taking your cars? Why are we taking we want to make them ourselves. I mean, I said, and if the price of your cars went up, or if we put a tariff on your cars of 25%, what would that mean to you? He said, that would mean the end of Canada. He actually said that to me. And I said, that's a strange answer, but I understand his answer. But no, I mean, it's hard to justify subsidizing Canada to the tune of maybe $200 billion a year. We protect Canada militarily, and we always will. We're going to, that's not a money thing. But we always will. But, it's not fair. But why are we subsidizing Canada $200 billion a year, or whatever the number might be? It's a very substantial number. And it's hard for the American taxpayer to say, gee whiz, we love doing that. Thank you very much. We're going to have a very substantive. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, we have been watching a very lengthy Q&A session with the President of the United States and the new Prime Minister from Canada, Mark Carney, talking about a lot of issues, but I do maybe want to start where that left off, because despite the fact that the two men, and frankly the two governments and countries, particularly Canada, have been very rhetorically aggressive towards one another, particularly with regard to this trade war that is going on. At the beginning, it was extremely cordial, really almost throughout the entire thing. Then at the end, you did see and hear President Trump start to get and give more jabs, talking about the fact that the United States doesn't need Canadian goods, doesn't need to have cars from Canada. And if you can see right there, the body language from and by the Canadian Prime Minister, he was not happy. And then the president ended the session, and now they're going to go behind closed doors, and we can only imagine how that conversation is going to go. I want to bring in CNN's Kevin Liptak and Paula Newton. They are both at the White House today. And Paula, I do want to start with you, because if I am in Canada watching my new prime minister, who got elected largely because he said, President Trump, back off, hear him say not once but twice, we're not going to be the 51st state. I can tell you right now that the Canadians spoke in this election, and it's not going to happen. I'm sure they will be pleased by that, maybe less pleased by the lecture on economics that we just heard from President Trump at the end of that session.
Listen, Dana, you hit it right on the head there. The issue is here in terms of tone. Look, this was completely different, not just from what President Trump had been saying really for months, but also from the election campaign of Mark Carney. And he had a very strident campaign and had harsh words for the president. They sat there in the Oval Office, couldn't be more cordial, right? What's that issue now? Substance. And in terms of substance, these two countries remain very far apart. Just fact-checking a couple of things. In terms of the ripping off of Canada, it is true Canada gets a lot from the relationship with the United States. But the Prime Minister, Carney, tried to interject there and say, point blank, Canada is the largest purchaser of American goods, period. Full stop. And that's why not too far from here on Capitol Hill, Dana, which you know all too well, there have been both Democratic and Republican politicians saying that to the White House loud and clear. Why? Because in severing that trade relationship with the United States, it will hurt both Democratic and Republican states. That's point number one. I think it is a message loud and clear to any other nation trying to do negotiations here at this White House that this president is sticking to what he thinks about these trade deals. He said, okay, sure, we've got this trade deal with Canada and Mexico. We may renegotiate it. We may abandon the trade deal. He is leaving everything on the table. And from that point of view, when you see Mark Carney there, really trying to say what he could with the body language, right? Basically saying that Donald Trump owes him in terms of the election. He got him elected, and he turned apparently and said, oh yeah, right. Listen, that is what we've been hearing from the Prime Minister's office. Make no mistake, Dana, Prime Minister Carney does respect this president. And when he says he's transformational, he means it. That does not mean there will not be collateral damage in both Canada and the United States if that's the way this relationship goes forward. Look, the expectations weren't very high in this meeting, I can tell you from Canadian officials. So far, so okay from the Oval Office. I'm sure behind closed doors things will get better. But again, no one should be under illusions here. This is going to be a very long negotiations, and both Americans themselves and American businesses should not be shocked about what happens next.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kevin, let me turn to you, and I just want to put a finer point on what Paula was saying when it comes to one of the basic fact checks about the economic and trade relationship between the U.S. and Canada. First and foremost, even this year alone, I'm told that the U.S. exports to Canada made up 17% of U.S. exports. But what you're looking at there, that's 2024. These are U.S. exports to Canada. So it's the Canadians buying American goods and services, $349.4 billion. It is the highest except for the EU, which is not on this. So it is a fact that the United States benefits greatly from Canada buying the U.S. goods. Kevin.
Right. And that's part of why it's so striking to hear the language that the president uses when he's talking about Canada. As you mentioned before, this meeting started relatively cordially. And in fact, when someone asked the president whether they would discuss this idea of Canada becoming the 51st American state, he tried to downplay it, saying that it wouldn't be a part of the conversation. And then he proceeded to talk at length about why he thinks it would be advantageous for Canada to become a part of the United States. And it was in a lot of ways hard for Carney to get a word in edgewise there. And you did note his body language. I was noting particularly when the president was going after, he didn't name her, but Chrystia Freeland, the former finance minister, saying that she was a terrible negotiator, talking about this experience negotiating the USMCA. He kind of had a pained look on his face. If I can do this, I would like to pull out one more, I think, important piece of news out of this meeting, which is what the president said at the very, very beginning when it comes to the Houthi rebels in Yemen. He says that they, in his words, have capitulated. He says that they don't want to fight anymore. He says that they've agreed to stop blowing up ships. And in the president's words, he's accepting the Houthis at their words, and that the U.S. will end this bombing campaign that had been ongoing since March 15th. So I guess 52 days that this bombing has been ongoing, trying to decimate that Iran-backed rebel group. Now the president saying that there is some sort of agreement to end the tensions, and we are getting some reporting in about exactly what's happening here. We understand that Steve Witkoff, the president's foreign envoy, worked through the Omanis. Remember, that's the Gulf state nation that the U.S. is also working with to try and negotiate a new deal with Iran, to come to this arrangement to end the strikes on the Houthi rebels in Yemen. In a lot of ways, this campaign by the Americans has been tough going. You know, the Houthis have still been able to shoot down 7 multi-million-dollar drones. There was that incident last week when the Houthis fired on the USS Harry Truman in the Red Sea. It had to turn so hard that a fighter jet fell off the ship. So this campaign had been tough going in a lot of ways, and now the president announcing that there could be an agreement to bring it to an end. I think two big questions here is, one, does this create momentum for a broader deal with Iran that the president has been pushing for? And two, does this agreement include a ceasefire with Israel, which just today had been targeting, you know, the main airport in Yemen? That had been in retaliation for the Houthis striking the main airport in Israel. So a lot of questions there. But I think a significant announcement from the president at the start of this meeting.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Kevin. It is true. It is a big announcement. And he, in his inimitable way, teased the fact that there could be a different announcement on a different deal in the coming days, not about trade. He made that very clear. So the other potential areas in which there could be a deal point to the Middle East. So that kind of speaks to what you were just wondering, whether what he announced on the Houthis could maybe.
Thank you for tuning in to the live show. Of course, we saw Mark Carney and the President of the United States right there in the White House. It went well. It went well. Of course, the 51st state didn't go well, though. All right, Pam Bundy, another large seizure. Check this out.
This multi-agency operation led by DEA with our local, state, tribal, and federal partners targeted one of the largest and most dangerous drug trafficking and foreign terrorist organizations in our country. The DEA seized 11.5 kilos of fentanyl, including an astounding approximately 3 million fentanyl pills, the largest seizure in our nation's history. These are the pills in the bags right there. The main bottom right, the head of this organization, Sinaloa organization, here in the country illegally, 6 of these guys and women here in the country illegally. His name is Alberto Salazar Amaya. He is the leader, and he was living in Salem, Oregon. With him, they got millions of dollars, cash, cars, but the drugs were in Albuquerque, Phoenix, and Utah. That's how insulated these drug dealer cartel leaders make themselves. This was an incredible operation, and that's why I wanted all of you here behind me. It took months and months of work, investigation, leading up to smaller buys, smaller cases, to get this massive amount of drugs and guns off our streets. $5 million approximately in cash, 35 kilos of methamphetamine, 35 kilos of meth, 7.5 kilos of cocaine, 4.5 kilos of heroin, 49 rifles and pistols, all shown in the pictures. And then, of course, the 3 million pills. These pills were stamped as oxycodone. Let that sink in. 3 million pills going on our streets. 3 million pills, the streets of our country, laced with fentanyl, labeled as oxycodone. And they were in all different strengths of fentanyl within them. This operation was made possible by over 55,000 hours of law enforcement investigation. And this is a really dangerous job that these DEA agents face every day, but they are getting very dangerous drugs off of our streets each day. They are flooding our cities with a weapon of mass destruction, fentanyl. And when we catch you, like all of these individuals, if convicted, we will put you behind bars, there will be no negotiating, and we will lock you up for as long as humanly possible. We will not negotiate with those who are killing our family members, including brothers, sisters, daughters, sons, parents, friends. Everyone in this room, I guarantee you, knows someone who has been afflicted with drug addiction, and many who have known someone who has lost a loved one because of this trash on our streets. The precursors are made in China. It was sent to Mexico and came right in our country. And again, 6 of these individuals were here illegally. That won't shock you. And we're running a massive, massive drug operation. This kind of success doesn't happen without extraordinary leadership. And I want to personally thank my friend, DEA Principal Deputy Administrator Rob Murphy, DEA El Paso Division Chief Agent in Charge Omar Ariella. I'm killing your name, Omar. Omar, okay. And U.S. Attorney, where's Ryan? Ryan Ellison. I also want to thank again the brave men and women of law enforcement. Last week I joined them at a DEA laboratory, and we went there, and it was truly remarkable what we saw, how quickly these cartels can manufacture and make fentanyl powder and put it into these pills. But people need to know, parents need to know, kids need to know, this fentanyl, this bus, these 3 million pills were oxycodone. They put this in Xanax, they put this in Adderall, they put this in Molly, the date drug or the party drug, something called Molly. They put it in cocaine, and they put it in marijuana. And it is to get you so highly addicted that you can't get off it. 75,000 Americans are dying each year because of fentanyl. 75,000. And that's why this is so important today. You've got to spread the word. If you know anyone who is taking any recreational drugs, they need to be extremely careful, because there is a very high likelihood it could be laced with fentanyl. And that's one of the reasons 75,000 Americans are losing their lives each day. It is the #1 cause of death for individuals between 18 and 34 in our country. More seizures are coming, more arrests are coming. I guarantee you that. And these dealers, these sellers, these street-level sellers better look out, because we will not be negotiating with you. We will bring you to justice, and we will not stop until this poison is off of our streets in our country. It is my honor to introduce my friend with DEA, Rob Murphy. Thank you again.
Thank you, Attorney General Bondi. Good afternoon. First off, I'd like to take a second and thank the men and women at DEA, along with our partners, U.S. Marshals, the IRS, obviously the U.S. Attorney's Office, who made this 6-month investigation happen. Without their tenacity, there was many obstacles that they faced throughout this investigation. And let me reiterate what the Attorney General Bondi said so well. This was a major drug trafficking organization led by Alberto Salazar Amaya, operating in the United States with no regard at all for the disruption to families, addiction, and ultimately death that was probably caused for the distribution. That nearly $5 million in cash represents poison that was distributed throughout at least 6 states that we were able to identify in this country, and who knows where it went when it was sold to that first level. Obviously a major organization. This team was able to infiltrate the organization at every level. We knew how the drugs were being brought into the U.S. We've identified the main players in Mexico who belong to the Sinaloa cartel, who was recently designated by this administration as a foreign terrorist organization. We are exploiting them at every level. We continue to do that. We expect more out of this investigation. Could not be more proud of the men and women that put their lives on the line every day, doing this job, working through the obstacles to make sure that the communities they live in, the communities we all live in, continue to be as safe they can be. So thank you, Attorney General Bondi, for giving this the attention it needs, and look forward to seeing what happens in the future. And so with that, I'd like to introduce U.S. Attorney Ryan Ellison.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ryan Ellison, and I'm the United States Attorney for the District of New Mexico. I'm going to give you a brief overview of the investigation that dismantled one of the largest and most dangerous fentanyl operations in United States history. This case involved coordinated efforts from federal, state, tribal, and local law enforcement agencies across multiple states. As a result of this ongoing investigation, 16 individuals have been arrested, including the alleged leader, Heriberto Salazar Amaya, an illegal alien from Mexico with 2 prior removals and direct ties to the Mexican cartel. In Albuquerque alone, authorities seized staggering quantities of illegal drugs and assets, including over 2.7 million fentanyl pills, 11.5 kilograms of concentrated fentanyl powder, 7 pounds of methamphetamine, multiple kilograms of heroin and cocaine, 41 firearms, to include ghost guns and weapons modified for automatic fire, more than $600,000 in cash, and numerous luxury vehicles. This sophisticated fentanyl and narcotics distribution network spanned New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, Oregon, and Utah, and was responsible for distributing lethal narcotics throughout the western United States. The sheer scale and potency of this fentanyl is sobering, with enough lethal doses to kill countless Americans. All defendants faced serious federal charges related to conspiracy and distribution of fentanyl, along with additional charges for firearms offenses and immigration violations in certain cases. I would like to thank the DEA's El Paso division, primarily the Albuquerque field office, as well as many other DEA field offices across the western United States, our local and federal partners, and the assistant U.S. attorneys that are prosecuting this case. Together, we have sent a clear message. We will not tolerate those who profit from poisoning American citizens. The fight continues, but today, our communities are safer with these drugs and criminals off the streets. Thank you.
I just want to add one thing. I was briefed before this by all of the agencies together, and the coordination with the AUSAs and DEA and the law enforcement agencies is truly remarkable. Thank you all. And again, be safe out there every day. They're out there risking their lives every day to save us and keep us safe. So thank you all. I think we're going to take a couple questions, but we are going to remain on topic today because we are here for something so serious. And I had wanted to walk out first and let you all hold this. This is how much fentanyl it takes to kill you. So if you want to come up and look at this after in this vial, you're welcome to. It looks like just a few grains of salt, and this is what it takes to kill you. Okay.
Just a reminder,
Wow.
staying on topic today.
Madam Attorney General, I was wondering if you're seeking to deport the 6 illegal aliens who are here, or to charge them first and then seek to deport them. I know there's been a number of high-profile arrests you guys have made where you've made the decision to just go after deportation versus criminal trial.
This guy is the leader. He's the #1 guy. And I want them to stay in our prisons as long as possible. I have no desire to send them back to Mexico because they were coming across our border illegally. No longer will they be able to do that. But the amount of drugs, the amount of money, the amount of weapons, most of these individuals, if convicted, will remain in American prisons. Perhaps Alcatraz.
Mary Daily Wire.
Thank you, Attorney General Bodney. Can you give us more information on some of these individuals up there, and can you also share whether you've had any success in getting the Mexican government to help you extradite any of these cartel members?
We will be hopefully working with them on one soon. But yes, Mexico has been cooperating in the past. I think we extradited 29 here to our country to face charges when it's some of the top cartel members in our nation's history, some of the worst of the worst. And we brought them here. One, in fact, is at the Kiki Camarena, right? The one, I can't think of his name. He killed Rafael, yeah. He killed Kiki Camarena, a DEA agent in the 80s. And Kiki Camareno's widow and son family had been trying to get this guy back since the 80s and could not do it. And President Trump, working hand in hand with Mexico, was able to get him back to this country. And we spoke to Kiki Camareno's widow and son, and they were both in tears. His son is now a judge, and his son had his father's handcuffs and had them engraved. And I think at some point that monster who tortured and murdered his father will be wearing those handcuffs. But he's now in American custody, along with, I think, 28 others that we were able to extradite with President Trump working with Mexico to stop this really reign of terror and this poison coming into our country.
I think we have time for one more. Jake?
You said that these individuals will not be deported. Can you tell us any specifics on charges and any specifics on the investigation on how this actually went down, how they were captured?
So the investigation is ongoing. I can tell you it was a lot of work, a lot of great police work is all I'll say now. But I don't want to really reveal their sources and methods of how they captured and caught these guys. But what I will tell you, the top guy who I keep pointing to, he insulated himself. He was in Oregon. He had no drugs on him, but he was the leader. He had millions of dollars. He had a Mercedes. He had a truck. He had other things, but he did not have any drugs on him because he was the leader. And that's what these cartels do, whether it's Sinaloa, whether it's MS-13, whether it's TDA. The highest leaders insulate themselves. Just like the TDA guy, you may have been with us in Virginia. When we arrested him, not even half an hour away from here, he didn't have any drugs on him either. That's what they do. They live among us. They live in neighborhoods because they are the top level.
So what will the charges be on that?
Oh, I'm sorry. Multiple, what are the charges, guys? The multiple drug trafficking, conspiracy to traffic, multiple drug charges. But depending on the time, they need to serve their time in an American prison to keep them off the streets, and who knows where they would go next. They're part of one of the largest drug trafficking organizations and one of the most frightening cartels.
Alana, last one.
How are you making the decision about whether to put on trial in the U.S. defendants who are living in the U.S. illegally? You said you want this man to stand trial in the U.S., but in another case, someone who was alleged to be a top MS-13 member,
the department moved to dismiss that case and is going to deport that person. How are you making that decision about whether to bring?
Sure. Based on the time that they can receive in prison. If these people are all facing substantial charges, maybe that might change down the road, you know, and they all are innocent until proven guilty. You know, if convicted, though, they're facing a substantial amount of time in prison, and there's a very big risk. We all know releasing someone, especially to Mexico, sending them back to Mexico. Who knows? They could attempt to get through our borders, not under Donald Trump, I doubt. But they're also part of a major drug trafficking ring in Mexico. So sending them back to Mexico to continue on with their drug business isn't going to happen under this administration.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you all. And if you want to see this, Alana, you may have seen this before, but if you all want to see this, it really puts it in perspective how deadly this stuff is. And that's what I wanted you all to see. Thank you all.
Now, that is great work by Pam Bundy and her team. Absolutely wonderful work. This is what the American people voted for. Drugs off the streets, okay? Drugs off the street. Yeah, these men look like they're serious. Shout out to the AG, Pam Bundy. Absolute wonderful work. This is what Americans voted for. This is why people support Trump. This is why people say, you know what? He's the only person that can get the job done. We've been getting records on massive raids, massive bust. Now this is the largest bust in history. That's just wow. And what, in less than 120 days? Pam Bundy just celebrated her 100th date, like what, a couple of days ago. But she's done so much. Amazing. All right, Caroline Leavitt, another wonderful person. Here we go.
Washington White House briefing. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt is with us. Caroline, thank you. Alcatraz, tell me more.
Great to see you, Sean. Thank you so much. And this is a phenomenal idea by President Trump that will be executed upon. In fact, I can confirm for you that the White House has already administered calls with the Bureau of Prisons, our counterparts at the Department of Justice, and our counterparts at the Department of Interior, because Alcatraz is now run by the National Park Service. And we know our great Secretary of Interior, Doug Burgum, is in charge of that. So the Bureau of Prisons has already confirmed that they are assessing next steps to reopen this notorious prison. And the reason for it is because President Trump is leaving no stone unturned to restore law and order to our country and to make it very clear to criminals, repeat offenders, not just illegal immigrant criminals, but also American citizens who have refused to comply with our nation's laws. If you have been repeatedly breaking the law, if you are in and out of prison, that is ending under this administration. President Trump's team is going to enforce our laws and prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. So we are absolutely looking into this, assessing next steps, and it's a part of the president's big picture law and order agenda, which is obviously working, especially when you look at the illegal border crossings at our southern border. The border is secure, mass deportations are underway, and law and order is back in America thanks to President Trump.
Caroline, what did you and the administration make of the Sinaloa cartel gang member interviewed on CNN? Why would they care what he thinks?
Well, it was fascinating to me, Sean. I was actually scrolling on Instagram when I came across this interview, and it stopped me in my tracks, not just because they sat down with a member of a Mexican cartel that is now designated as a foreign terrorist organization by the United States government, but because of the nature of the questions of this notorious foreign terrorist. It was a softball interview giving a platform to a notorious drug cartel that has killed American citizens. I thought it was quite despicable. But again, this is just another reason why the trust in the legacy media is at an all-time low amongst the American public.
Well, you know, Caroline, things are changing dramatically inside the press briefing room. You have a lot of new media that you have invited in. I thought it was very clever. When you walk in the White House in the front gate, you see that there's sort of like a media row, and all the different networks have the little spot. And then behind them, you put posters of people that committed the most heinous crimes against Americans. For most of those networks, that might be the first time that people are learning about the number of crimes, the murders and rapes and violent crimes committed by people, because they didn't really report on it that often. And then a lot of chatter today about, quote, the White House's own Drudge Report. You have decided to put out your own information that people can now bypass the media and go directly to what you're saying about the different issues and what the president's doing, a whole new approach to media. Tell me about it.
Yeah, absolutely, Sean. And it's because President Trump has revolutionized media and the way Americans consume media. He started this on the campaign when he opened the campaign to social media influencers and podcasters, and he was willing to take that non-traditional media route. And we have continued that effort at the White House. And it's sad, truly, that we have to put mugshots of illegal alien criminals on the front lawn of the White House in order for the mainstream media to actually cover these stories. They should be covering them, but because they do not, we will put them right in their faces. And it drew a lot of attention, as it should. Last week at the White House, I met with angel mothers whose names your audience may not know because they are living in silence. They are living in a tragic circumstance where their children were taken away from them by illegal alien criminals. And no politician, they told me, until Donald Trump cared about their stories, cared about listening to them. So we had them at the White House last week for a listening session. We're going to continue to engage with these angel parents who have lost their children as a result of the Democrats' open border policies. And every day we are reminded by their testimony, their stories, the lives of their loved ones, law-abiding American citizens who should still be with us when we are mass deporting illegal alien criminals from our nation's interior. Those efforts continue. As you just saw from the Secretary of Homeland Security, we are encouraging illegal aliens in the interior of our country to self-deport. ICE is conducting successful operations on the ground in communities across the country. But if you are here illegally, do the right thing and go home. This president and this administration are enforcing our nation's immigration laws on behalf of the law-abiding American citizens who want to trust our system of justice, but especially on behalf of those who have tragically lost their lives at the hands of violent illegal criminals.
Last question. Wall Street had just had its longest winning streak since 2004. It has a slight dip today, but leading up to today. And I guess people want to know the status of trade deals. We had Scott Bessent on the program last week. He said there are 17 identified countries to go first, and he's very confident that they're getting closer to making these trade deals and resolving the tariff issues. Can you update us on that?
The trade deals are continuing to move along in a positive and productive direction. The Secretary of Treasury, Secretary of Commerce, the president himself continue to be engaged on this every single day, keeping in mind the American worker and reshoring jobs here at home. You had a new announcement from the president yesterday, tariffs on the film industry. We're going to make Hollywood great again. And it's just one of the many great proposals the president has had to make our country boom again and to bring jobs back here.
Caroline Leavitt, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of people are saying that she is revolutionizing the way press secretary do their press briefing in the White House because she's invited influencers, people who do their own research and then give their own opinions, which I think is absolutely creative. And she's changed the way press secretaries are going to do their stuff. And she's only 27 years old. She's the youngest. Yeah, that's wild. All right. Speaker Mike Johnson and House Republican leaders try to promote the big, beautiful bill.
Can I lower this just a bit? Look at this. Not too much. You can raise it. This is just fun. Good morning, everybody.
What just happened right there?
Look at this. Not too much. You can raise it. This is just fun. Good morning, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well.
Oh, God.
Question for you. What is anti-Semitism? I bet any American can answer that question, and they can tell you when they see it. But I'm curious about a college administrator. Does anti-Semitism belong on college campuses? Of course not. Do college administrators agree? Well, we'll find out tomorrow when 3 university presidents appear before the House Committee on Education and Workforce to answer just those questions. And I will cut right to the chase. If any of them can't denounce anti-Semitism, or more importantly, take action to protect their students, then they should be fired immediately. Remember, actions speak louder than words. The American people are watching, the students are watching, and the president is watching. As a member of the House Committee on Education and the Workforce, my colleagues and I will ensure that these colleges are being held accountable for their actions or lack thereof. Anti-Semitism in any form will just not be tolerated. And I thank President Trump and his work on this very crucial issue. Now, switching gears for our work this week, House Republicans continue to work to codify President Trump and the American people's agenda. We will codify President Trump's executive order renaming the Gulf of America. The American people are footing the bill to protect and secure the Gulf of America. It's only right that it's named appropriately. On Friday, we received the president's budget. It aims to root out wasteful spending, deliver historic saving, and protect essential programs, just like we'll be doing in our One Big Beautiful Bill. And lastly, but certainly not least, House Republicans celebrate National Small Business Week. It's fitting we celebrate Small Business Week amidst our work to prevent the largest tax hike in American history. Unfortunately, not a single Democrat has joined us in our efforts on this. They've already turned their backs on millions of workers and support shuttering thousands of small businesses that employ nearly half of the workforce. And here to speak on this is Chairman of the Small Business Committee, our coach, Mr. Roger Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this is going to be a great week for America. It's going to be a great week for small business. You know, small business represents 99% of our businesses in America are small businesses. 50% of the payroll, 50% of the workforce is generated by Main Street America. And the American dream is living large right now. I will tell you what's ahead for us. We got a great partnership between Senator Ernst and I and Administrator Loeffler. We're very closely together with the SBA, which is over purview of the Small Business Committee. But when you look at the opportunities that are out there for small business is ready for the Trump tax cuts. When you talk about Trump tax cuts, you talk about less regulations. You talk about 100% expensing. Unbelievable opportunities ahead for Main Street America. So we will celebrate that this week. One of the things we've already done with Administrator Loeffler and Senator Ernst and myself is we've already raised we've filed to raise the $5 million loan max on manufacturing to $10 million. This is big. This is a big thing because now people can expand their business. They can get started in business. They can stay in business. So we've got a lot of great things happening. We should all be proud to live in this country, but also we got the greatest economy in the world. It's going to get nothing but better, and the American dream is living and breathing as we speak right now. It's an honor to be the chair of the Small Business Committee and work with these people behind me. God bless.
Crypto's footing slips on the hill. Some reports read this morning. As a member of the most pro-crypto Congress ever, I wholeheartedly reject that premise. I want to remind everyone listening that crypto is not right or left. It's not Republican or Democrat. It's the future, and it's for everyone. In an increasingly digital world, America must step up as the leader in digital asset innovation and investment. President Trump vowed to make America the crypto capital of the world. And since day one, he's delivered by reversing Joe Biden and Gary Gensler's anti-crypto crusade. From signing a bill into law that repeals the Biden-era IRS rule that chilled DeFi innovation, to signing executive orders that create a strategic reserve of crypto and prohibit the establishment of a central bank digital currency. President Trump is positioning the United States as the world leader in digital assets. These are moves that can and should be celebrated by all of us. As the most pro-crypto, pro-innovation Congress ever elected, we are already taking bipartisan steps, I would argue nonpartisan steps, to ensure digital asset policy champions decentralization and open, permissionless, and private innovation. This is the only viable path forward. By originating the regulatory framework for crypto here in Congress, the future of digital assets will be determined by the American people and their representatives, as it should be. The moment to get this done is now, and we need to get it done together. If we fail to provide clarity that protects innovators and consumers alike, the future of crypto and the opportunities it brings will belong to another nation. To deliver on President Trump's crypto promises that individuals in both parties can get behind, Congress must keep taking steps closer to getting a nonpartisan, or you guys like to report bipartisan, regulatory framework across the finish line, and quickly. With that, I turn it over to our leader Scalise.
Thank you, Whip. It was great to hear from our chairman of the Small Business Committee, Roger Williams. Nobody understands the value of small businesses, the importance of promoting small businesses in America better than Roger and his chairman. He has ushered in policies and bills through that committee to allow small businesses to thrive. And if you look at the work we're doing with the One Big Beautiful Bill, the reconciliation package, this is a bill that will grow more small businesses across America. It'll create more jobs across America. It'll create stability. If you think about the idea that if Congress were to take no action this year, there would be a $4.5 trillion tax increase on American families. Over 95% of Americans would see a tax increase. And yet every Democrat in Washington will be voting no on that package and would like to see every family pay more in taxes. There are so many other provisions that are so critical to getting our economy back on track, to lowering inflation, to lowering the cost of things at the grocery store, at the gas pump, that are in this bill, and we are still moving through. Last week, I applaud 7 committees in Congress did their work, completely finished their work in reconciliation here in the House. Today, the Natural Resources Committee will take up their portion of the bill. That'll be 8 committees out of 11 that will already be done with all of their work this week. And then next week, the final 3 committees, Agriculture, Energy and Commerce, and Ways and Means, will take up and finish their work to get this big, beautiful bill not only through the House process, but over to the Senate. The Speaker and I met with Jason Smith and Brett Guthrie last week in the White House with President Trump to go through some of the final details that we are getting agreement on. And we've been working incredibly closely with the White House and with the Senate every step of the way, because this bill is critically important to American families. This bill is a big piece of carrying through that Trump agenda, the mandate that the American people gave us when they elected not just Donald Trump in the White House, but a Republican House and a Republican Senate to go deliver for the families who have been struggling for way too long. We do that with this One Big Beautiful Bill. Everything from tax stability in the tax code so that nobody sees a tax increase, bringing trillions of dollars of private investment back into the economy, opening up more energy production in America to reverse some of the damage Joe Biden did, everywhere from ANWR in Alaska, some of the great work that Congressman Begich just came into Congress, vowing to fight for the citizens of Alaska and open up more areas for production there. That's going to be in this bill, all the way down to the Gulf of America, opening up more areas for lease sales and production in the Gulf as well. All of those things are going to be in the bill. More defense funding, more border security, giving protection and technology to our Border Patrol agents. All of that is in the bill too. Confronting the debt ceiling, dealing with rules and regulatory reform, all in this powerful bill. What the Education and Workforce Committee did to protect students from higher student debt. We actually protect students so that they're not saddled with high student loans when they graduate from college. That's in this bill as well, standing up and holding accountable the universities that were failing kids for so many years, saddling them with $200,000, $300,000 in debt without the ability to pay it back. So many good provisions. We're going to be bringing that bill to the floor once it's all finished next week, and then we compile it in Budget Committee and bring it as one big, beautiful bill to the House floor and then pass it on to the Senate so that they can continue this work. And the man leading that charge in the House is our Speaker, Mike Johnson.
Good morning, everybody. Great to see you all. It's a great day on the Hill. We're very encouraged and even excited this morning about where we are and everything. President Trump, after the inauguration, and Republicans have taken our job very seriously. We haven't wasted a moment. We all celebrated the first 100 days of the Trump administration and all the extraordinary things that have been accomplished in such a short period of time. And we've been working around the clock to codify so much of what President Trump has been doing. I think there's 143 executive orders that have been issued thus far, and we're working around the clock to make sure that we put these into statutory law so that it can't be reversed and erased by an upcoming administration. For some reason, the media acts like that this effort is somehow a negative thing. It's not at all. Anybody who says that, they just fundamentally misunderstand the relationship between congressional Republicans and President Trump and his administration. We all ran on the same America First agenda: secure the border, cut taxes for working families, revive American energy production, strengthen our standing on the world stage, and bring back common sense. Those are the sort of the common themes of all these executive orders and the action the administration has taken. And this agenda, remember, was resoundingly endorsed by 77 million Americans who voted in the popular vote for the president, and almost as many for House Republicans. We set a record for that. It's the most diverse and expansive coalition we've seen in modern history, a real and true demographic shift. And the reason people voted that way is that they had this sort of hopeful anticipation that the president and Republicans in Congress would do exactly what we are doing right now. And we are fulfilling that promise. We already have the formula for prosperity and security, and that's the thing about President Trump. It's not an unknown entity. As we've all recounted many times, he's done it once, he'll do it again. We plan to work together to enshrine the agenda into law and make sure we have a roaring American economy and stability and security and prosperity and strength again. From day one, President Trump has used his executive authority to reverse also the devastating policies of the last administration. There was a lot of that to be done. But as the previous administration made it painfully clear, executive orders can be undone and overwritten, and that's why we have to move it through the legislative process. And we are. Here's a few key examples, okay, of what we've already voted to codify in terms of the executive orders. The President's Election Security Executive Order through the SAVE Act. That's what we voted on and got that done in the House. His executive order banning men from women's sports. We did that through the Women and Girls in Sports Act. His sanctions on the ICC. We did that through our Illegitimate Court Counteraction Act to support our ally Israel. And his Forest Management Executive Order through Fix Our Forests Act. Some of the things we've done so far. Now, this week, we'll add another one to the list. We're going to pass Marjorie Taylor Greene's bill to permanently rename the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. And then we're going to codify dozens more of President Trump's budget-related executive orders, spending-related executive orders through the budget reconciliation process. Let me give you just a quick word on that, and then we'll take some questions. As Leader Scalise just recounted, we're really excited. We're very encouraged this morning. I mean, I'm so thankful to have such a team that's worked so hard. I began the House Republican Conference meeting this morning with all the House Republicans by congratulating and thanking all of our committee chairs. I mean, they worked so hard around the clock. And we've been doing this for almost a year, as we've said many times in here. And all the committee members who were so disciplined in getting the work done. I mean, they had 10, 12-hour hearings in some of these committees, some even longer. And they got the product done and through the process. So By the end of this week, we'll have eight of the 11 committees of jurisdiction will have done their work. And then next week, we will have Ways and Means, Energy and Commerce, and Ag. And some of you reported, or some of your outlets reported anyway, over the weekend that this was somehow a snag in the process, that those three committees were going next week instead of this week. But as I've explained to a few of you individually, I'll just say here together in the room, we went last Thursday to the White House, as the leader mentioned. Steve Scalise and I and Chairman Guthrie and Chairman Smith met in the White House with the president and his whole team on point. We had Secretary Bessent there from Treasury. We had Russ Vogt from Office of Management and Budget. We had his whole Legislative Affairs team, and Susie Wiles, the Chief of Staff, and Stephen Miller, and the whole group. And the intention was to work through some of the final details, but we realized that we were still awaiting some key numbers on calculations on some of the provisions with tax and some of the other details. And it just made sense for us to push pause for a week to make sure that we do this right. We didn't want to move this quickly, speed for the sake of speed. We want to get it right. And so everybody in the room agreed that it made sense for us to do that. And so we pushed those three committees that are going next week just off another week, so we can make sure that we have the right equilibrium point on all the key issues. And I'm absolutely convinced we're going to do that, and I'm excited about it. So we'll stay on track. They'll do that next week, and by the end of the week, as Steve said, Leader Scalise said, we'll have our 11 committees. We'll send them by the end of next week to the Budget Committee, and Chairman Arrington then and his team will take that and merge it all together, and we'll have the one big beautiful bill ready to go. We can pass that by Memorial Day. That was our original time frame, and some of the people in this room balked and thought that would be impossible, but stop doubting us. We're going to get this job done, okay? I'll just make this point. I made it on TV over the weekend, and I want to say it again. The House and Senate Republicans are utilizing the budget reconciliation process primarily because Leader Schumer in the Senate, Leader Jeffries in the House, and their Democrat colleagues refuse to engage in anything, no matter how meritorious, even to improve the lives of their constituents, if it means that President Trump will somehow be credited with a win. I mean, it's really sad, but that's the fact. They'd rather put on performative stunts and host these activist town halls and all this other nonsense than just work with us to bring costs down and make communities safer for their constituents. Now, just think about how the American people feel about these issues. Consider this. Secure the border, right? Securing the border is an 80-20 issue in America. Deporting illegal aliens, more than 50% of American people believe that every single illegal alien should be deported, okay? And yet Democrats, much less the violent criminals, which the administration has taken on in earnest. But in spite of those numbers, okay, the Democrats are taking trips to Central America to bring back violent illegal aliens back to the country. It's madness. Strengthening Medicaid for Americans who need it by eliminating things like fraud, waste, and abuse, which is a huge problem in the program, including removing illegal aliens. If you add all that together, 66% of the American people think that that's a very important idea. We need to improve and shore up and strengthen the program so that it can be there for the people who desperately need and deserve it. And Democrats, what are they doing? They're lying about what we're doing with Medicaid. So much so that we've gotten them to pull down their advertising because they were literally breaking the law. We sent cease and desist letters, and they had to take it down. Cutting taxes for working families and small businesses. What American doesn't want to pay fewer taxes to the government? There may be a few, but I haven't found them. Especially on matters like the overtime that they work, their tipped wages, and Social Security. Big promises for the president. We're going to deliver that. But it turns out congressional Democrats apparently want Americans to pay more. They're adamantly against all those things I just named. They're against keeping taxes low. And when they oppose the reconciliation bill, when they oppose the solution to this, to extending the tax cuts, they are actually advocating for the largest tax increase in U.S. history. End of sentence. Unleashing American energy, lowering input costs, creating new jobs. Democrats want a radical Green New Deal policy extension. They don't want these common sense solutions and all the above policies like we are bringing and that the American people demand and deserve. I could go on and on and on. You get the point. This is what we're endeavoring to do through our budget reconciliation process, and these are the policies we're fighting every day to deliver because these are the ones the American people support and they need and they deserve. When Democrats had a trifecta in 2021, they used the budget reconciliation process, but you know what they did? They used it to stimulate the economy. What did that mean? Well, trillions in new spending and tax hikes and the Green New Deal giveaways. We can't do that. It's not sustainable. So we're going to reverse it. And guess what happened when they did that? We had runaway inflation, making the cost of living for everyday Americans unbearable. Contrast that with what we're doing. What Republicans are working on right now, what we are delivering through the committees and soon through the whole House, lower taxes, decreased regulation, safer streets, keeping money, more of your money that you earn in your own pocket. We'll take that to the people every single day, and they'll be for us. And as the House works to finish budget reconciliation over the next few weeks, we'll continue to shine a light on the do-nothing Democrats who would rather oppose President Trump's popular agenda than work for the needs of their own constituents, and I just think it's shameful. With that, I'll take a few questions. Olivia, yeah.
As you head into the final sort of stretch for reconciliation, members, centrists, conservatives seem to have a very different expectation of what the final product is going to look like. Have you made assurances, have you made promises that you can't keep to different members as this process begins to wrap?
No, I don't make promises I can't keep. This is a consensus building operation, as you know, and it's member driven, bottom up, and every single member of the conference has had many opportunities and has more this week to weigh in and let their preferences be known. This is about balancing preferences. I mean, no one's going to be surprised. Everybody knows where the touch points are on the final details of the final analysis. And we've been working really hard to take all the input and find that kind of equilibrium point where everybody is at least satisfied. Some people are not going to be elated by every provision of the bill. It's impossible. The bill's one big, beautiful bill. It's a big piece of legislation. There's a lot in it. So there's always going to be things page by page. Somebody can go through a large bill and find things that they're not, that they would have preferred to be handled another way. But in its totality, this is going to be the most important, most consequential legislation that we'll ever be involved in our lifetimes, and arguably one of the biggest in the history of Congress. And so I think at the end of the day, we'll get that consensus. And, you know, there may be some grumbling about certain provisions, but as the whip said so aptly this morning in the conference meeting, he said, you gotta focus on the totality of the bill and not just individual details. But my job is to work out those details. And I'm very confident that we're going to get to that point by the end of this week, and we'll move this thing forward. So, yeah. Second row.
Thank you. Last week, the House passed 3 CRA resolutions terminating California vehicle emissions rules, but Senate Majority Leader John Thune is yet to make a decision to take up those resolutions or not. How confident are you that congressional Republicans can get these resolutions to the president's desk?
I've got a lot of confidence in Leader Thune. We work together very closely, almost daily, and he's managing a small margin as I am. Both of us now have 3 votes to spare. It's an embarrassment of riches, you know. So he's got to do consensus building on it as well. I suspect every Republican's for that, but of course he's got to get about 7 Democrats to come along on everything, and that's the tough part. And you know, Leader Schumer over there and the Democrats have made very clear they don't have much intention of getting anything done at all. They just want to stop all the progress. And I know a lot of Californians that are very excited, very happy that we took that big step, and I hope the Senate can get it done. But I don't know what their time frame is.
Speaker Johnson, how do you use reconciliation to remove illegal immigrants from Medicaid, and how do you confidently estimate the savings from that?
Well, it's not my estimation. I mean, these numbers come from the CBO and very credible sources. We have a pretty accurate count, we think, of how many are on the rolls in some of these states, and now we have a tabulation of what it will save the taxpayers to kick them off. And as I mentioned, I mean, public polling is squarely on our side on this. I mean, you cannot have an open doormat. You can't have an open border. Thankfully, President Trump has closed it now. But for 4 years, it was wide open, and we sent the message to everybody around the world, come here and you can get on the taxpayers' wagon, you know, and that's just not, it's not right, it's not lawful, it's not morally correct. And we're gonna fix it in reconciliation. So stay tuned. There'll be a lot of savings for the American people, and I think it'll be wildly popular when we get it done. Yeah, back third row. Yeah.
So some of your colleagues have suggested this week that D.C. District Judge James Boasberg is being assigned a disproportionate number of, quote, high-profile cases related to the Trump administration. What is your take on that? Is it the view of House Republicans that the D.C. federal court isn't following judicial conference policy for random assignment on cases?
That's the first I've heard of the allegation, to be honest. I mean, I was a federal court litigator, and I don't have any evidence that they're, you know, it's supposed to be a random drawing, and so far as I know, that's what's happening. I mean, we do have real concern about that individual judge and some of the decisions he's made. But look, I mentioned this to some colleagues this morning. When I used to litigate cases, I would run into activist judges on occasion, but I never walked out of the courthouse thinking that I would have the ability to impeach them. I just thought I need to get this to the appellate court as soon as possible to get them overturned, and we had a great success rate in that. Activist judges need to be addressed, and we passed the No Rogue Rulings Act a few weeks ago, Darrell Iss's bill, that would really solve that problem in a silver bullet. That's another thing we really hope the Senate can move. It shouldn't be a partisan issue. I mean, everybody, Republicans and Democrats, should want fair judges. I mean, that's our system of equal justice depends upon that, and it's gotten out of control. So I don't know. There are lots of allegations and concerns about it, but I haven't seen any proof of that. So, yeah, go ahead.
You were asked about the Senate, what you expect the Senate to do with your reconciliation bill in the conference today. Will they just change a bunch of this stuff? And I think there's a concern about that from a lot of your members. I mean, give me your sense. I mean, how much, you talk about your coordination with Thune. How much do you think, or how much do you expect that the Senate will want to put its own imprint on this thing?
Well, look, we got some strong leaders in the Senate. They're all friends and colleagues of ours. We truly regard this as one team. I know that's an innovation in Washington. I know the House and Senate are supposed to be fighting each other all the time, but that's not the game we're playing. And I've been very deliberate, and Leader Thune has as well, to have no daylight between the two chambers. So there shouldn't be any big surprises. I mean, they're following very closely what we're doing and vice versa. But the lion's share of the work has been done in the House, not by virtue of pride of authorship or because there's a competition between the two chambers, but just because that's the way the calendar fell. Remember, we started working on this in March of last year, and the Senate was going through lots of other things during that time period. They had a change in their leadership because Leader McConnell stepped down. They had a lot of turnover there. And they had to do, at the beginning of the first 100 days, they had to, of course, do all the confirmations of the administration, and they did it in record time to their great credit. But by virtue of that calendar, it meant that the House did a ton of the work. I mean, we're probably 8 months ahead of the Senate by some measures in all the deliberations and the detail work. So that, by necessity, means that we'll drive the initial product and send it over. And that's really the way the system is supposed to work anyway on a budget reconciliation. So we're going to be very proud of the product we send over there. I don't expect that it will take much modification. I hope that there's very little at all, and that we can have an agreement. But the difference now and in years past, perhaps, is that our colleagues over there know exactly what we're doing. We're in careful, close communication, and with the White House team as well. So we're not sending over some package, that they'll receive blindly and not know what's in it. Everybody knows what we're working on and why, and the discussions we're having, and we're keeping them abreast of all of it. And if there are individual senators who have a problem, I'm apt to reach out to them myself, and committee chairs are as well. There's been very close coordination between the committee chairs on the matching jurisdictions on votes for it, right? And it's a very high burden, and frankly, the bar is high crimes and misdemeanors. I mean, the last federal judge that was impeached, I think, was caught taking cash in an envelope. It's like it's got to be a pretty brazen offense, a real open crime that everybody could agree to. So short of that, if we don't have the votes, and by the way, even if we could get an impeachment article through the House on a federal judge, it's unlikely that they would be tried and convicted in the Senate on that with the divided number we have. So short of that, what can we do? I mean, we've done everything within our power to solve that problem. And remember the stats. I think it's 67% of all national injunctions issued against a president in the last 100 years or against one president, and his name's Donald J. Trump. 90% of those were from openly, Democrat-appointed judges that many would regard as this other judge as activists or people venue shop to get in their courts. So we all know it's a real problem. It's not what the Founding Fathers intended. So what can we do? Using our power in the House, Darrell Iss's bill is a great response. The No Rogue Rulings Act would prohibit a single individual judge from issuing a nationwide injunction like that to stop the entire policy of an administration. I think that is a very common sense standard, and one that would kind of get back to the original intent and eliminate the ability of just one activist to just stop everything. And it's very reasonable legislation. We passed it through the House. We sent it to the Senate with every expectation that they should be able to take that up. And I certainly hope they can, because, again, it shouldn't be a partisan issue. It should be something that every American agrees with. We've got to restore faith in our system of justice. And it was eroded over the last 4 years on the Biden administration for all the reasons we know and have recounted here many times. And it falls to us to make sure that people can believe. Lady Justice has a blindfold for a reason, right? That the symbol is that it's equal justice under law, as it's chiseled into the marble above the Supreme Court's entrance when you walk in. We have to restore that. If you don't have the people's faith in a system of justice and fair judges, then you don't have anything in a republic. And that's why this is so important. We'll keep advancing it. Thanks so much for the time.
Leader Solis, can I ask about the FBI, the House Intel report, just quickly?
Yeah.
So I saw your statement expressing some concerns after you've read the report. You're asking the FBI director to look into that. What exactly are your concerns, and how high do you think this went at the FBI?
So if you go back to 2017, after the baseball shooting, the FBI had brought in the members of the team. Roger Williams was one of those members who was part of that briefing. And at that meeting, they went through some of the information. Some of it was classified, some of it wasn't. But they ultimately let us know what their conclusion was. And that's when they said it was classified as suicide by cop. And I'll tell you, I was offended. I think all of us there were highly offended that that was the conclusion that the FBI in 2017 came to, because it wasn't what happened on the baseball field. He went there with the intention of killing all of us on the baseball field, and he had a list in his pocket of other Republicans he wanted to kill. It was very politically motivated, and it was clear they suppressed a lot of facts. And what the FBI report that Kash Patel's FBI came out with today shows they suppressed factual evidence to reach a different conclusion than what the facts led to show. Suicide by cop was not the conclusion. They ultimately changed it to domestic terrorism. And I applaud the new FBI for making that change in the justification. But they also revealed some of the other facts that were suppressed. The fact that it was politically motivated, even though they had some of that factual evidence, they hid that because they didn't want to make it look like it was politically motivated. Look, the guy went there and not only tried to kill all of us. I had 2 Capitol Police officers with me on my detail. He tried to kill both of them. Suicide by cop is not when you try to kill everybody around, including the cops. And by the way, he didn't even know they were cops because they were dressed in plain clothes. And he had every intention of carrying out a politically motivated message. He wrote about it, and they had that evidence, and they suppressed it. So it was very disappointing. We walked out of the meeting that day because we were so infuriated that that was their conclusion. I'm glad that Kash Patel is getting the FBI back to a fact-based organization where they follow the evidence, not try to have a pre-disclosed conclusion, but where they actually look at the facts and make their conclusion based on the evidence. That's what he's done with this new report. And I think it's important that they got it right. It's also important that they find out who the people were that suppressed evidence for a political motivated reason.
Do you believe that, where do you believe that political motivation came from? Do you think
I don't know. We saw that some of those agencies were unfortunately being used for political purposes, to go after political enemies, to try to carry out political vendettas. It's not why they're there. Regardless of, in the Gabby Gifford shooting, all of us, I was a fairly new member of Congress at the time, and, we were devastated by that attempt on Gabby's life, but we also wanted to know what happened. We just wanted to know the facts. And if it led this direction or that direction, it didn't. It really shouldn't have mattered to the people going out to find the facts. The intelligence agencies should have been just looking for the facts, not trying to have their own conclusion confirmed by suppressing evidence. And yet that's what they did. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the live show. All right, we have been streaming for 3 hours and about 15 minutes. God bless you guys. We witnessed Mark Carney and the President of the United States, Donald Trump, in the Oval Office. It was fun and at the same time funny. But with that being said, you guys are the best. Shout out to Mr. Busky. Shout out to Dana. Dana is the mom of this channel. Okay. Dana is the mom of this channel. All right. Shout out to Luke for sure. One of our members. God bless you guys. Everybody who tuned in, God bless you. Shout out to MTG for sure. Who else, man? Who else? Everybody who tuned in, God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. All right. With that being said, instead of looking for perfection, seek for consistency. Never give up on yourself. Never give up on your dreams. Never give up on God. Believe in yourself. Believe in your dreams. And believe in Almighty God, okay? Sometimes life is just unexplainable, but keep your head up. Keep your head up. Life can be hard. Keep your head up. Just keep your head up, man. God is great. God loves you, regardless of what you're going through. It's definitely hard. Life is absolutely hard sometimes, but stay strong. God got you. God got me. Shout out to the veterans. Shout out to the military personnel. You guys protect the homeland. God bless you. And God is great. God is great. All right, love you guys. We'll be back here soon, soon, soon. Shout out to you. All right, we will say God bless you. God bless the United States.